Greetings, this is TK Trav, aka Travis Magus, here with LVX777. Apparently the unicorn light doesn't work as well in the sunlight. All good though. When the lights go out, it's perfect. So, good morning, greetings, and welcome. Today we're going to get started with the book Samkhya Darshan. We're going to read the introduction, chapters 1 and 2. So hope that you're ready. I hope you have the book by now. Peace, peace, peace. So greetings to everyone that's here. Alex Cuckoo, Naturally Natured, Pablo X9, Gilbert Rishi, Wholeness and Compassion, Cradle of Humankind, Peace all the way in China, Higher Understanding, Peace, peace, Moby, good morning, good morning. Hecate Goddess, welcome, welcome. Are you prepared for this class session? Society Ejects, good morning, brother, good morning. Sunshine Chick, greetings, greetings. Nicole Berkeley, greetings. So this is a little bit earlier than usual, a lot bit earlier than usual, but you know, sleep schedule and all. I just passed out after yesterday's live stream, so I woke up early, and here we are. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab this text, and we're gonna go ahead and jump in and get started. Brother Ali 47, peace, peace. Al Dickey, good morning, good morning. Listen, I hope that everyone is having a good day, a great day, because I hope if you haven't realized by now, you don't need to suffer, you don't need to suffer, you don't need to suffer, right? Nuru, peace and greetings. A lot of reality, dare I say most of reality, is what you make it. And that's quite literal. When I say it's how you make it or what you make it, it's based on how you interpret what's going on. So if you're going to interpret reality as being this situation that's very painful and stressful and unbearable, well, naturally, that's what you're going to experience. So be good to yourself. Most of our problems can be solved if we fix our attitude. All right, so I've got a handful of books, and I need to use one of these hands to open the door. Decisions, decisions. Bear with me here. So nice to have all you guys, because you could literally be doing anything else with your time. All right, we're gonna maneuver this gracefully. Well done, Travis. Woo! Okay, that goes there. These go here. Stack of books goes here. Perfect. Morning. Would you look at this? Fantastic. Alora, good morning. Okay, so I think that, wow, have you guys ever tried this before? Mountain Dew Flaming Hot. It's actually spicy, but I'm not gonna drink that in this live stream. We'll go something a little bit less fiery. Good morning, Smooth. Smooth asks, good morning, Trav. What's that on your lip? Well, since you're so curious about what's that on my lip, it's called, what is it? It's one of those oils that are great for moisturizing the skin. I don't remember, I got like 12 different ones. Damn, I forgot the name of it. Society Eject says I've been addicted to Coca-Cola Starlight. Yeah, it's really good. A little too good, if you ask me. All right. Smooth says, oh great, I thought it was lip gloss for a second. I mean, even if it was, are you gonna come over to my house and beat me up? Or are you gonna do absolutely nothing about it? Except maybe leave my live stream. Alright, so let's flip this camera around. This is what I read the other day, and this is another angle, right? Atma Bodha, same author. The Tatva Bodha, some of you guys were present when I read it, was about knowledge of reality, whereas Atma Bodha is knowledge of the self. Both really good for understanding the science. They're actually very thin books. If you have the time and the interest, I'd recommend them both. Shankaracharya is a very influential author on this science. Check those out if you can. They're pretty cheap. They're on Amazon. They're really thin. Might be nice for the collection. I love that these books are all thin and short and straight to the point. But for now, we're digging into this right here. The meat, the potatoes, the bread, the butter, right? The big deal. The big deal. Samkhya Darshan. Now, Samkhya has been written about for centuries. But this book right here is written by a very familiar author. We are familiar with his writing style. We're familiar with his delivery. And by this point, if you've been following my live stream, you should be familiar with a lot of the terms and the concepts. Now, I gave a primer yesterday in the live stream, so hopefully you caught that. And that should make things a lot easier to understand, right? We're talking about Purusha and Prakriti, which is consciousness and matter, which is, the duality of this universe, the masculine and feminine, which is actually one and the same. Consciousness is but another degree of matter. Matter is but another degree of consciousness. They're all of the same. They all resolve at the highest point. Thank you, Sunshine Chick, for posting the link to this book. If you don't have it by now, please get it. I'm telling you, this is the one right here, as you're going to see as we begin. So without further ado, let me go ahead and turn this camera around so that Smooth isn't so distracted by what's on my lip. And so that we can see the words on this page. All right. Samkhya Darshan, Yogic Perspective on Theories of Realism, by Swami Niranjanananda Saraswati. Ashe to the Order of the Unicorn. Ashe to the Order of the Phoenix. With kind regards and prim, Swami Niranjan. Thanks, Swami. So I have to point this out ever since Amar pointed it out, because this is serious business, right? This is compiled from lectures given to postgraduate students in yoga philosophy at Bihar Yoga Bharati. The Bihar Yoga, this is a school, right? They teach this stuff seriously. People dedicate their lives to learning this at a high level. So it's more than just yoga pants Karens. This is like a lifestyle, and they get deep with it. So this is taken from postgraduates, meaning that you've already completed the course, been through rigorous training, right? Been in this game for years. Edited by Rishi Vashista, which is actually Dr. Peter E. Lower, PhD, the MAPIL BA, right? The introduction by Swami Vigyan Chaitanya, right? So this isn't just somebody who wanted to write a book and posted it on Amazon. This is like the cream of the crop stuff right here. I just want to emphasize the seriousness. Dedicated to Swami Sivananda, right? In humility, we offer this dedication to Swami Sivananda Saraswati, who initiated Swami Satyananda Saraswati into the secrets of yoga, who initiated Swami Niranjanananda Saraswati into the secrets of yoga. This is written in 2008. So we're going to go through the introduction to Samkhya. We're going to go through dualism or Dvaita Veda. Then we're going to tackle the theory of causation. And depending on how excited I get, I might make another video of another 3 chapters later on today, which is very likely, but we'll see. We'll see how these Fortnite streets are looking later on. Okay. Lights, camera, action. Battery charged. Phone on silent, so that the thirsty ones don't blow up my phone, because I got work to do right now. Let me stop. I love everyone, even if I can't love them enough. Introduction to Samkhya. The Rishis have propounded all the philosophical traditions of India from ancient times. They realized the spiritual truths within themselves without the need for any external textual knowledge. They realized the spiritual truths within themselves without the need for any external textual knowledge. Wait till you get to that level. They tapped the infinite reservoirs of knowledge within the dimensions of the higher mind and gave us very brief formulas called sutras. So these actually were people who went within and pulled information from their divine consciousness. But that's just not something you do because you want to. It actually does take a level of training to be able to do that correctly. So they tapped the infinite, I highlighted that. They tapped the infinite reservoirs of knowledge within the dimensions of the higher mind and gave us very brief formulas called sutras. I highlighted that because that's very important to understand. The different sutras are the different texts that explain what's happening in the higher realms. So you'll see all kind of, for example, the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, right? That's the foundation of yoga right there. So Patanjali tapped into the infinite reservoir of knowledge within the dimension of higher mind, and he gave us a brief formula called the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, and there are many, many others, including the two that I just showed up here by Shankaracharya. We need to make an effort to understand these sutras through holistic knowledge and penetrating insight, as they are of great practical relevance today in our daily life. Kapila was one such rishi who was perhaps the first advocate of philosophy and psychology. This is where we get philosophy and psychology. It started here, right? It didn't really exist before that, at least not written down. Maybe word of mouth passed around, but yeah. Kapila is the sage that we are deriving this knowledge from today with Samkhya. You may have seen his name when we were flipping through this book, if you didn't buy it, and if you didn't, that's okay, because it is kind of hard to get sometimes. Awakening the Life Force. In this book, he actually has a chart here talking about where the different philosophies of, yoga and all that stuff come from. Here we go. And you can see that Vedanta comes from Vyasa, right? Is it showing up on the screen or is it blurry? Yeah, Vedanta comes from Vyasa. Yoga came from Patanjali, as I just said. Now Samkhya comes from Kapila, right? Now there are other branches as well. For example, Nyaya started by Gautama Buddha, right? Vaisheshika was started by Kananda, and then Purva Mimamsa was started by Jaimini. Now I'm gonna be dead serious and honest. I haven't heard any of those before this book, so I don't know what those three are talking about. But as it says here, Jaimini deals with Vedic ritual. Kananda deals with specific categories to analyze nature to gain knowledge and mastery over them. So that might be something somebody's interested in. And we know about Gautama. But Samkhya and Kapila, this deals with the hierarchy of the 25 Tatwas and how they devolve out of Prakriti, binding the soul into matter. This describes the reverse process of the evolution of the Tatwas back into Prakriti. That's why we're doing this. So that we can understand why the soul is bound to matter and how to reverse the process. Now, through reading and analysis, these are going to, like I said in that video, these are going to give you concepts to contemplate, and that will eventually help you to understand the bigger picture. So it's not that the books themselves will make you enlightened, but the books will give you the fuel, the ammunition, and the understanding to light the fireworks that are going to set you free. Continue. Oh, snap. Nuru says Patanjali. See the reappearance of Pata. Anjali. Nice. I never caught that. Patanjali. Pata. Gilbert Rishi. Oh, yeah. You're fine. You're fine. We're just literally on page 1. Alicia M. Good morning. Good morning. I'm going to have to get like you pretty soon. A friend of mine came over last night, but I wasn't ready to take that trip. Maybe a little bit later. I'll study a little bit more and see what I can come up with while I'm in the clouds. But anyways, let's continue. We need to make an effort to understand these sutras through holistic knowledge and penetrating insight, as they are of great practical relevance today in our daily life. Kapila was one such rishi, who was perhaps the first advocate of philosophy and psychology. This text presents a very clear understanding of the main concepts of this path-breaking philosophy, called Samkhya. The attempt here is to get into the essence of this system and present an insight into what Kapila had in mind when he first formulated the system of classical Samkhya. Origin and history. Samkhya is an important philosophy because it forms the foundation of the Indian philosophical tradition as well as the basis for the yoga tradition, right? So we're talking about some foundational stuff here, right? This is why we're getting into this, not just because it's, by now, If we see the history of Samkhya, we find that it has very few sources which are comprehensive. In fact, the only complete work is Ishvara Krishna's Samkhya Karika, on which this work is based. Now there's another text which I'm studying. I knew that was the only complete one, but there's another one that I've been looking into. And that one is really where I've been getting a lot of these breakthroughs from because I was able to compare notes. I bought this book January of last year. So through that whole time, I've been, contemplating this information. But when I added this text with the other text, some things started opening up for me. Samkhya is called, and by the way, this Samkhya Karika, the original text, this is at the end of the book. Swami Niranjanananda Saraswati actually translates it for us so we can understand it in plain English, which is pretty awesome. I'm excited to get to that towards the end. Trust me. If you got the book, you can go ahead and start looking at it. Okay, Samkhya is called dualistic and atheistic. Oh, that's interesting. However, the versions of Samkhya in the Bhagavad Gita and the Bhagavad Purana are theistic. Okay, so that looks like there's two versions. One is atheistic and one is theistic. That's important to keep in mind. If you don't know, atheistic means it doesn't believe in a singular overarching God. Atheistic does not believe in a one God at the top of the totem pole. Theistic means that no matter what, the higher up you go, eventually the highest point that you can go is going to be in the realm of a one God. So Samkhya, there are versions that are theistic and versions that are atheistic, and he's about to get into that. There are further versions of Samkhya in the Ayurveda treatise, Charaka Samhita. References to the Samkhya systems are also found in some of the Upanishads, especially the Svetasvarata Upanishad. All these are texts that you can find on Amazon or online somewhere. Samkhya is perhaps the earliest philosophy to emerge from the Vedic corpus. So we talk about the Vedic text, right? Samkhya is perhaps the earliest philosophy to emerge from the Vedic corpus, the Vedic body of knowledge. The Nasidya Sukta of the Rig Veda is said to be the inspiration behind this philosophy. The concept of Purusha is there in the Vedas, but the concept of Prakriti as the unmanifest and the womb of creation is acknowledged to be that of Samkhya. So we got the soul all over the place, right? The Purusha is mentioned in the Vedas, but Prakriti, we find the missing piece. Prakriti, we find her here in Samkhya, all right? The evolution of creation through the subtle tanmatras, the gross elements, mahabhutas, and the mobilizing and perceiving indriyas as the medium to experience that creation completes the whole picture. The concept of tanmatra as the subtle elements is specific to Samkhya. So what he's saying right there is, you're going to find throughout Vedic philosophy about Purusha, which represents the soul, the sacrifice god, who we have all been created out of, so to speak. But it isn't until we start getting into Samkhya that we recognize that that soul is actually found within Prakriti, which is nature, which is matter, the womb of creation, right? Not only that, but there's levels beneath it, and we talked about this. As you continue to go into Prakriti, we begin to see that there are the tanmatras, which are the potentialities of experience, things to be experienced, I should say. The gross elements known as the mahabhutas, in other words, the elements, the tattvas, right? The mahabhutas are the tattvas, the 5 elements, the material that everything's created out of. And then finally he says the mobilizing and perceiving indriyas. Last night we talked about the indriyas. Those are the 5 senses of action and the 5 senses of knowledge, right? So your taste, touch, smell, sight, hear, also your hands to grab, your legs and feet to walk, your tongue to speak. All these different things are how we perceive and experience the elements and even the potential elements, right? All that is unique to Samkhya. Check this out now. The word Samkhya is composed of 2 words. Sam, meaning correct, proper, and discriminative, and Kya, meaning knowing. So Samkhya encourages aspirants to undertake a discriminative analysis of creation and thereby realize one's true nature. See how that works? Samkhya is inviting us through study, through correct and proper study, to know thyself. And what are we studying? What are we being discriminative about? Creation, right? So it says, Samkhya encourages aspirants to undertake a discriminative analysis of creation and thereby realize one's true nature. That's the point. In fact, it is said in one of the sutras that all other means of knowing are impure. All other means of knowing are impure, and only direct inquiry through vijnana, or intuitive knowing, can bring about the knowledge of the difference between the manifest and the unmanifest. In other words, the vyakta and the avyakta. Now check this out. For some of you guys who have been studying this for a minute, where have you seen this word vijnana? Where have you seen this word vijnana? Vijnana. Because he said here that analyzing creation is the main way to realize one's true nature, and all other ways are impure. So only through direct vijnana, or intuitive knowing, can bring about the knowledge of the difference between the manifest and the unmanifest. So have you heard vijnana before? Sunshine Chick says jnana yoga, gyan yoga. Okay, yes, that's one place. Yes, that's correct. Now let's see, have you ever seen vijnana with a V? Have we ever seen that before? I'll give you a hint. If you look on page 72 of Tatwas, they talk about the 5 bodies, the 5 koshas, right? We got the Annamaya kosha, which is the physical body. We got the Pranamaya kosha, which is the pranic body, the etheric body. Then we got the Manomaya kosha, which is the astral body. Then we got the Vijnanamaya kosha, right? The sheath made of intuition. In the West, we call that the mental body, the mental plane. And then finally, Anandamaya kosha, which is the sheath composed of bliss, the soul train. So in other words, there's a Vijnanamaya kosha, which is the mental body, the mental plane. And you remember, yesterday we were talking about how there's that experiment that shows, the split particle experiment that demonstrates that when consciousness perceives light, it is instantly collapsed from a wave into a particle. And I was saying that's more than just a curiosity. That demonstrates the supremacy of the mental plane over the physical plane. What is observed changes its quality based on it being observed. So let me read this again with that in mind. Right? Let me read this again with that in mind. In fact, it is said in one of the sutras that all other means of knowing are impure, and only direct inquiry through vijnana, or intuitive knowing, can bring about the knowledge of the difference between the manifest and the unmanifest, right? Wave and particle. Man, look, it is too early for me to be on fire, so I'm going to try to calm down because I can feel myself heating up. Stray Panther, good morning, bro. Oh, yeah. I haven't had coffee in so long. I just absolutely lost the taste for it. I don't even know why. And I used to down coffee every day, like 3-4 cups. Suddenly, I don't even want it. 5008. Good morning. Welcome. I hope you learned something. Okay, so yeah, Vijnana, or intuitive knowing can bring about the knowledge of the difference between the manifest and the unmanifest. In other words, the vyakta or the avyakta. The pratyabhijna of Kashmir Shaivism also refers to direct knowing or recognition. The experiences of sages prove that direct knowing is possible. I should highlight that. He says the experiences of sages prove that direct knowing is possible. Ramana Maharshi, the sage of Arunachala, arrived at the self through a process of deep and heartfelt inquiry. That was his path, and also the path for countless others. Samkhya and the philosophical tradition. Samkhya is one of the earliest schools of Indian philosophy, and the other systems have been drawn from it. Samkhya is one of the earliest schools of Indian philosophy, and the other systems have been drawn from it. That's why I keep coming back to this right here. So y'all thought that I was just saying that. Samkhya is one of the earliest schools of Indian philosophy, and the other systems have been drawn from it. Swami Vivekananda, in The Science and Philosophy of Religion, he says, Kapila is the father of all Hindu psychology. The ancient system that he taught is the foundation of all the accepted systems of philosophy in India, which are known as darshanas. So, darshan doesn't just mean vision. It doesn't just mean seeing. Because, in the book Trana Darshan, when he defined that word, he said that it means vision, which is true. But that was more of a simplified answer. Darshan actually means a way of seeing, right? A way of seeing reality, a way of seeing the word. Maybe it's in the glossary in the back. ABD. Darshan, to see, to glimpse, to have a vision, devata, deity, right? That is one version of it. It also means a way of seeing reality. So Samkhya Darshan, right? Just like Dharana Darshan, Samkhya Darshan is a way of seeing reality. And he has another book that Sunshine Chick suggested to me, Yoga Darshan, right? So these are just a way of seeing reality through the eyes of this philosophy. You feel me? This is serious business. The father of all Hindu psychology. Okay, let's keep going. So, He says that Kapila is the father of all Hindu psychology. The ancient system that he taught is the foundation of all the accepted systems of philosophy in India, which are known as darshanas. They all adopt his psychology, however widely they differ in other respects. Vedanta is the logical outcome of Samkhya. Now, Vedanta is what Swami Vivekananda teaches, right? So notice, this is one of the things you want to look at. All these different gurus and swamis that you're studying, understand what system they're teaching from, because they're all teaching from different systems. Swami Vivekananda, he's all about Vedanta. All right? So he says that Vedanta is the logical outcome of Samkhya, right? Which means that he had to go through understanding Samkhya in order to get through understanding Vedanta, which is why we're reading Niranjana Nanda's books as opposed to Vivekananda's books. They're insightful, and please get them as well if you're interested. But for the particular system that I'm learning, it's Samkhya. So he says Vedanta is the logical outcome of Sankhya and pushes its conclusions still further, right? While its cosmology agrees with Kapila, Vedanta is not satisfied with dualism, but continues its search for the final unity, which is the goal of science and religion alike. So he's saying that Vedanta is a continuation of Samkhya. Nehru says, historically, when Samkhya developed, this direct knowing was the essence of this radical atheism. That is, reorienting one's mind inward to self rather than outward to a god. Okay, yeah, that's a good explanation. So it isn't simply just not believing in God and believing in God. We're talking about a direction of focus. Gautama founded what later would, Nehru says, Gautama founded what later would be called Buddhism on this principle of Samkhya, inward reliance on your own light, ascension directly, not through an outside God. Yes, very important to understand. Like I said, depending on which one of these teachers that you're studying under, know their foundation and where they're coming from. That's only going to help you understand how to determine what's what. Anthony Hardy, peace. Garrett Patterson, peace. Samkhya is known as a dualistic philosophy as it postulates two eternal realities. All right, get ready. By now, you should know these words. Most of y'all know these words, but if you're new, pay attention to this part. Purusha, Prakriti. All right? Samkhya is known as a dualistic philosophy as it postulates two eternal realities. Purusha, the witnessing consciousness, and Prakriti, the root cause of creation, composed of the three gunas. You guys remember the three gunas, which are the three modes of expression of Prakriti, which are Rajas, which is activity and anxiety and motion and movement, and Tamas, which is inertia, death, decay, stagnation, laziness, ignorance. And then Sattva, which is harmony, which is peace, which is balance, which is transcendental. Reality can express itself in any of those three ways. It usually expresses itself in a combination, but one of those ways are going to be the predominant mode of expression. So again, Purusha is the witnessing consciousness. Prakriti, the root cause of creation, composed of the three gunas. So that's what nature is made out of, those three modes of expression. The process of manifestation begins with the infusion of consciousness, Purusha, into Prakriti, the unmanifest cause of creation. So you see how that works out? We've got witnessing consciousness, and we've got creation herself, composed of the three gunas. Now manifestation, right? This isn't manifestation yet. We're just looking at the two different sides of the same coin. We got the consciousness and we have matter, creation, nature. The process of manifestation, that begins with the infusion of consciousness into the unmanifest cause of creation. So when consciousness enters nature, now we got manifestation. But before that, nature was just chilling. Nothing was being produced. It was all one thing, as I keep saying. Nature, matter is all one thing. So in its unmanifest state, it is dormant. It is interesting to note how Samkhya arrives at the two eternal realities through a process of logical deduction and inference called proofs or pramanas. The theory of causation postulates Prakriti as the womb of creation. Purusha is logically established as the witness, the enjoyer, and the consciousness. Okay, all right. We're getting that. Nuru continues, but this atheism does involve an eternal life. Unlike Christian atheism, Vedic atheism does not mean no life beyond death. Thank you. That's another important distinction. When we talk about atheism in this respect, they're not talking about, oh, I don't believe in God, we're all just going to die and go into nothingness. No, they still understand that life as we know it continues on different levels. Alora says, like meditating on a form and then having it fill with universal consciousness. Uh-oh. Just giving away the secrets. Spilling the beans. And sometimes, Alora, if not every time, that's just a manner of speaking. We're not actually filling it with consciousness. We're unlocking the consciousness that is inherent within it. So when we meditate on a crystal, we're not exactly filling it with consciousness. We're unlocking the consciousness that is already within it, right? Right. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. Beautiful stuff. Nuru says, think of Purusha as a great library full of all words from which all books, Prakriti, are written. Each of us becomes a self-writing book, an iteration. Each book is added to the great library. Yes, well explained. Alora says, yeah, we're bringing it from dormant to active. Exactly. Nothing but geniuses in this chat. You know what I'm saying? I'm grateful for you all, for sure, and for certain. I'd rather have 19 geniuses in this chat than 200 people talking about some stuff that don't make sense. Thank you for being here. Once again. Society Eject says, yep, like the DVD metaphor you did yesterday. Yes, sir. Exactly. See, this is perfect. This is perfect. You know that this information is potent because just by hearing it, your outlook on reality begins to shift in a dramatic way. This stuff is potent, y'all. We dealing with some potency. But let me get back into it. Samkhya has outlined a very systematic structure of creation, comprising a total of 25 tattvas, or evolutes. Purusha and Prakriti constitute the transcendental level, or source, of evolution. Right? So let me read this again, slowly, because you're going to have to memorize this if you really want to understand it, right? There's 25 tattvas, right? There's 25 tattvas, but at the very top is Prakriti, and then Purusha. That's the structure. That's the layout. 25 tattvas. That's 5 times 5. There's 5 elements, but within those 5 elements are the other elements. So we got a range of evolution. That's one way to look at it, right? I've got a deck of tattva cards that I made that pretty much show an image of each one that you can meditate on, and it will begin to give you a abstract understanding of those levels. That's one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is the infamous page 45, Tatwa shooting. Because you got 45 levels right here. Right, you got 25 levels here. And essentially, what we're looking at is 5 tattvas, 5 tan mantras, 10 indriyas. So that's 20 right there. Right, that's 20 right there. Now manas is actually the 10 indriyas. So we're not going to count manas. Manas is the 10 indriyas. So look at this. 5 tattvas, that's 5. The 5 tan mantras, that's 10. The 10 Indriyas, that's 20. Chitta 21, Ahamkara 22, Buddhi 23, Prakriti 24, Purusha 25. Those are the 25 Tatwas that are spoken about here. Right? Because remember yesterday I said that Manas, the body mind, is actually the culmination of the 10 Indriyas. So that's what he means when he's talking about the Purusha and Prakriti constitute. Well, Samkhya has outlined a very systematic structure of creation comprising a total of 25 tattvas or evolutes. Purusha and Prakriti constitute the transcendental level or the source of evolution. Right? So please get that. If you have the book Tatwa Shuddhi, then you'll have an easy time memorizing this. You should be able to say this from scratch. The 5 tattvas, the 5 elements, Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Apas, Prithvi. In other words, earth, water, fire, air, Akash. Right? Then, of course, the 5 tanmatras, the 10 Indriyas, Buddhi, Ahamkara, Chitta, Manas. I asked you to memorize that months ago. And this is why, right? If you've been following along, it should start making sense as to why I've been repeating certain things over and over and over, because that's how you're going to be able to grasp this. Okay? Now, all of this is actually an evolute of Prakriti, which is nature. Now, when those gunas are still, inert, balanced, not active, this does not happen. And when this is not happening, you can see her as she is. One beautiful thing, not a bunch of different things. And on the other end of the spectrum is Purusha, individual soul. All right, let's continue. A lot of information here, so please bear with me and be patient with yourself. If you don't understand it, just keep listening. You'll get it eventually if you keep trying. And if you do understand it, this is going to be a fun ride. Purusha and Prakriti constitute the transcendental level or source of evolution. The 10 Indriyas, Manas, Ahamkara, and Mahat, constitute the subjective field. Okay, so Buddhi or Mahat, Ahamkara, the 10 Indriyas, and Manas, right? That's the subjective field. And then the 5 Tanmatras and 5 Mahabhutas constitute the objective field. So we got objective reality and subjective reality, the external reality and the internal reality. Thus, evolution is on 2 levels, the inner and the outer. Now, if you recall, the very last diagram that I drew from my live stream yesterday was that very notion, right? That's actually was the last thing that I drew on this chart. The Antakarana, which is the inner instrument, Buddhi, Ahamkara, Manas, and Chitta. What Manas actually is, though, is the mind of the outer instrument, the Bahyakarana. That's the 5 senses of action and the 5 senses of knowledge. This is the objective reality. This is the material world. This is the outside reality. This is the inside reality. This is the mind. This is the subjective reality. This is how we perceive the objective. Let me know if you follow, or let me know if this is over your head. I want to know, what you guys understand in the chat currently, just in case I might need to explain some things, or if you get it, so I don't have to waste time explaining. So let me know. Give me some feedback. Uh-oh. It fell out. Gotta put it back in. The phone charger. Okay. So, the later philosophies have further developed this concept of evolution. Advaita Vedanta advocates the philosophy of the non-dual nature of the ultimate reality and has solved the problem of the diversified nature of creation, the one ultimate becoming many, right? Advaita Vedanta advocates the philosophy of the non-dual nature of the ultimate reality and has solved the problem of the diversified nature of creation by postulating 2 levels of reality: the absolute, which is known as paramartika, and the relative, which is vyavaharika. So in other words, let me read that again. Advaita Vedanta advocates the philosophy of the non-dual nature of the ultimate reality. So Advaita Vedanta is saying that the ultimate reality is not dual. It is not dual. Samkhya says that it's dual, Purusha Prakriti. Vedanta says it's not dual. And the way that they resolve that is by postulating two levels of reality. Excuse me. So they what's the word? They resolve that by stating that there's two levels of reality, the absolute level of reality and the relative level of reality. And we've talked about this before, right? The absolute and the relative. So when you walk around and understand life, relatively, this is very real. But according to the absolute level, this is an illusion. This is not real, right? The relative has everything to do with you and your personal relation to it. The absolute is looking at it from a much higher perspective in the big scheme of things. So of course, if we're looking at it from a relative perspective, yes, there is duality. But from the absolute perspective, no, there's only unity. So they are both true, they both exist, depending on your perspective. Connor Black, greetings and good morning. Connor Black says that's what certain yogis are talking about when they talk about the real and the unreal. Cool. Kashmir Shaivism, the most systematic amongst the different tantric philosophies, has developed a total number of 36 evolutes or Tatwas. So we go from 25 to 36. Kashmir Shaivism, the most systematic among the different tantric philosophies, has developed a total number of 36 evolutes or Tatwas. This system includes a detailed explanation of and additions to the higher stages of evolution. So that shouldn't be too much of a surprise because I just showed you that on page 45. The microcosm, right? The microcosmos deals with the 25. Now he just talked about 36, right? Right? So we got 25 down here. Now let's add a few. 25 plus 5 is 30. 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. You see how this makes sense? So what we're going to be dealing with is simply the microcosm. Understanding this is enough. But if you wanted to get jiggy with it, right, you would also understand that according to Kashmir Shaivism, they have a different structure that adds on to Samkhya. Because remember, Samkhya is the original. So everything else that is derived from it adds to it. That's why on this page we've got this big ass chart between the macrocosm and the microcosm, right? So when I say that this stuff has been all figured out already, like we're not out here trying to figure it out for the first time. Like, no, like this has really been laid down and understood. If anything, we can come into an understanding of it personally. We're discovering it personally for ourselves. That's what we're doing. But that should do two things. Number one, it should let you know that you don't have to make something up. You don't have to sit here and make something up, right? Oh, I downloaded from whatever. Like you don't have to make it up. Like there's a system that's already in place, or multiple systems that are in place that people much smarter and wiser and more thoroughly studied than myself have spent time fleshing out. But that also comforts me because I know that the answer is out there. I'm going to find it. It's out there already. It's already been discussed and explored. That's a good thing. Pablo X69 says, mind blown. Society Eject says, yo, that's the tree of life right there. Natural Nature says, yep, that's the tree. Exactly. I'm telling you, that's why we're studying Kabbalah and yoga at the same time, because I want y'all to see that this is the same thing. It just looks a little bit different. But even as I said in the live stream, you see this realm of Maya, right? Maya, this is where ignorance begins. Not ignorance as, oh, you're stupid, but ignorance as in what we call you and your soul and your ultimate self, pure consciousness, simply by evolving out of its original self, simply by evolving, it has to leave behind what it was and become something new. And in that continual process of evolution, it forms layers of ignorance between each evolute. And that's where we get the 5 conchukas or sheaths that block the realization of the self. The veil of Maya becomes so strong, so thick, that eventually all that we can see is an individual experience, right? So at the lowest level, all you can see is what you're picking up from your 5 senses. That's the lowest level. That doesn't mean you're not pure consciousness. That just means all that your awareness can center on is the objective reality. But this explains that why, when you start doing these specific yoga meditations, transcendental meditations, you start to unlock psychic abilities, you start to unlock clairvoyance, you start to unlock telepathy, etc., because you're expanding back upward. You're beginning to realize the level of self that is actually connected to everything else. That's why these cities start happening, right? Now, Society Ejects, yes, that's what I was setting this up for, to say. Society Ejects says, is Maya doth? Exactly, bro. You got it. Now look at where Maya is. Look at where it is. Now, if you were to pull out your book, look at where Doth is. Look at the abyss. Look at that veil, that sheath that blocks the cosmic totality of the Most High and makes one think that it is a very small individual. And if you study Kabbalah even more, you'll come to understand that there are more than one of these veils. The abyss is just the most commonly one that we see. There's also one that's happening here, represented by the strength card. There's one, and that's called the veil of Paraketh. There's another one happening here. There's another one happening here. And this one is so simple. This one is just falling asleep. Right? But yeah, there's veils at every level of evolution. And the more that we expand our awareness of what's actually going on, the more that we're able to sustain our consciousness in the experience of those veils. Beautiful stuff. I love it. And like I said, I'm glad that it's all here to be discovered. You don't have to make nothing up. All you have to do is study and then meditate on the concepts that you studied so that you can understand it. And then eventually, if you do that enough, now you can start getting downloads because you have the words and the concepts to interpret what you're downloading. You're connected at all times to the Most High. You are, but you don't have the capacity to really break it down and digest it like a baby. A baby don't have teeth. You can't even feed a baby honey or peanut butter because their system isn't refined enough to break that stuff down. The baby has to get older and start developing teeth. The organs have to change and mature and all that stuff. What does the Bible say about milk for babes and meat for strong adults, right? So it's not that your spiritual experiences are invalid. It's that the more that you understand, the more that you can pull out of your meditations. Can I get a witness? I am Duncan. Greetings. I am Duncan asks, how many years have you been studying? Well, I started at the turn of the century in 1999, and that's how long I've been buying books and reading them and trying to figure this stuff out. But to be really honest, I got like super serious around like 2015. And I took a break around 2017 because I started messing with the clip off and lost everything that I thought was so important. And then I realized that the only way to get out of that pit was to continue my study. And here we are. Here we are after 72 goetic spirits and thousands of dollars of Amazon book buying. Here we are. I like it. I love it. I want some more of it. Sly, good morning. Nuru says, all things inward moving, navriti, sound towards self, soul, Atman, Purusha, Brahman are subjective. Outward looking and thinking means creating objects to think about or seek out there. This is objective. I am Duncan says, wow, you look like 20 something. I just started watching your channel like 30 minutes ago. Oh, he's brand new. Found your channel from the Masterly Foolish upload. Oh yeah. Shout out to Masterly Foolish. I give thanks because Masterly Foolish, by him sharing my videos, has really brought a lot of people to my channel, that's for sure. I think the first time he shared my videos, I got like 3,000 to 4,000 subscribers, which was insane. 11:11. Wow, it is 11:11. So cool. Thanks, Slack. Society Ejects, thank you for the quote. He says, and I, brethren, could not speak unto you as unto spiritual, but as unto carnal, even as unto babes in Christ. I have fed you with milk, and not with meat, for hitherto ye were not able to bear it, neither yet now are ye able. That's a powerful quote. That's 1 Corinthians chapter 3. Exactly. Which is why we went through all these yoga books so that we can get here. That's why we're going through all the Kabbalah books so we can go through mystical Kabbalah. It's better to build up to it than to just stick it in, right? It's better to build up to it than to just dive in head first, right? That's exactly what it's talking about. And that applies to everything in life, really. If you really want to enjoy it for what it's really worth, you got to prepare yourself and work yourself up to it. You know what I'm saying? So thank you for that quote. Beautiful stuff. All right, let's keep going. Woo! And again, that's why I do throw in certain pop culture references or sexual innuendos and things like that. Because what's the first part of that verse? And I, brethren, could not speak unto you as spiritual, but as unto carnal, even as unto babes in Christ. It is fun to make sexual innuendos, but it also catches your attention, right? Nobody's going to ignore a sexual innuendo. Just speaking the language, right? Sunshine Chick says, be right back, back to work. Thank you for coming. All right, let's keep going. Sri Krishna, the divine incarnation with all the powers and attributes of the ultimate, glorifies Kapila, the founder of the Samkhya school, as part of himself. He says, among the siddhas, I am Kapila. Wow. Straight Panther 79 says, gotta lick it before you stick it. Oh, man. What a world that we live in. What a world. Preparation. My dad used to say, piss poor planning makes for a poor result. You gotta prepare. Gotta prepare. You can't just jump into something and expect to have the best level of success. Preparation is key. No need to rush. You don't have to rush. You got your whole life. And if you die, then oh well. But at least you did the right thing. I understand all that, Trav, but what candle do I use? All right, let's keep going. So the avatar the avatar himself said, among the siddhas, I am Kapila. That's in the Bhagavad Gita 10:26. Right? That's in the Bhagavad Gita. So if an avatar mentions Kapila as himself, usually it's the person that says that they're an avatar, but the avatar said that he was a person. Why should Kapila's philosophy be called atheistic? God is not mentioned, but presumably because Kapila did not want a transcendental aspect to be introduced in a system which was purely realistic. Right? So he wanted to keep it real. He wanted to keep this system very down to earth and very logical. Right? He didn't really want to include the transcendental element that would require someone to really stretch their capacity to understand things that are not tangible. So in other words, to make it really easy for the simple person, for the basic person, easy in a matter of speaking, he kept it atheistic. There has been criticism of Samkhya in this respect, and also because it is apparently a dualistic philosophy. But it can be assumed that Kapila did not want to discuss that which is beyond the grasp of the human mind, and which is strictly a matter of experience. Back to that quote that Society Ejects posted. I have fed you with milk and not with meat, for hitherto you were not able to bear it, neither yet now are you able, right? 1 Corinthians chapter 3. That explains why Samkhya is quote-unquote atheistic. Because the higher realms, like, there really is no point talking about them because they're a matter of experience, right? It's beyond the grasp of the basic human mind. I'm gonna highlight that. I Am Duncan has asked a question about the third eye, and it looks like Alora has answered that question in a pretty good way. Yeah, I Am Duncan, I would definitely check out what Alora has said, because that's a better answer than I was going to give. He did not want to go beyond a realistic view. He did not want to discuss the final nature of the reality, which is essentially formless. This point is further examined at the end of this book. So that's what we're going to get into at the end. Although Purusha and Prakriti are mentioned as separate realities, it is repeatedly established that they work together. And Purusha forms the substratum, or the base of creation, right? So Purusha and Prakriti, they work together. But understand that Purusha forms the basis of creation, right? The direction of evolution given by Samkhya is clear, and this has been developed later by other philosophies, even as we saw Vedanta and Shaivism. So let's continue. Salient features of Samkhya. Salient. Satkarya Veda, or the doctrine of pre-existent effect in the cause, right? So understand that the Satkarya Veda is the concept that the effect exists within the cause. So in other words, the oak tree exists within the acorn, right? The tree exists within the seed. The plant exists within the seed. The doctrine of pre-existent effect in the cause, right? So Satkarya Veda, or the doctrine of pre-existent effect in the cause, is a unique contribution of Samkhya to metaphysics and physics. This is where that concept came from. The word Sat means existence, Karya means effect, and Veda means doctrine. This doctrine states that all effects are pre-existent in the cause, and the effect is the manifest cause. Let me read that again, because this is so key to understand, right? The tree exists within the seed. This is why when you study the 5 elements, when you study the Tatwas, it talks about how each one of them is associated with one of the 5 senses, right? Akasha is associated with sound. Fire is associated with sight. Air is associated with touch. Water is associated with taste. And earth is associated with smell. There's a reason for that. Because every effect and potential smell exists within the seed of the earth element. Every potential effect of vision is contained within the prototype of the fire element, right? This is crucial to understand. Crucial to understand. So again, I take you back to Tatwas. Take you back to the book Tatwas. And if you wanted to get into the elements, look at chapter 9. She breaks this down. Please read this book again and again and again. I'm telling you, it's worth it. But on page 61, she shows you this chart, and I tried to show it yesterday, but I know it didn't come through clear. But you're going to notice all the associations with these 5 elements. We'll just look at the earth, for example. The nature of it is heavy. So everything heavy, everything that can be experienced as heavy, contains its potentiality within what's called the earth Mahabhuta, the Prithvi Mahabhuta, or the earth element. anything that can be smelled, see the Tan mantra here, anything that can be smelled has its potential within what we know of as the dimension of the earth element. Matter of fact, the nose and smelling, right, has its potentiality within what we know of as the earth element, right? The mental state of ahamkara or ego has everything to do, its potentiality is stored within what we know of as the earth element, right? The bones and the skin and the blood vessels, that potentiality is within the earth element. And you can tap into that prototype with the mantra Lam, right? The chakra, the Muladhara earth chakra, it contains its potentiality with the earth element, and so on and so forth. All potentiality for anything that can be experienced is contained in the prototype of the Tanmatras. That's taught with Shruti. You should know by now. Page 61. Analyze that. If you have that book, it'd be a good idea to check that out. Now, Franz Barton, in his book Initiation into Hermetics, one of the first exercises was to analyze the parts of your personality that are associated with the elements. Why do you think he did that? Not just for shadow work, but also so that you can start to break down and understand where these feelings are coming from. See, there's a realm in the higher unmanifest regions of existence where every aspect of you that is being expressed right now, it's coming out of a potentiality, out of a potential state. And if you can recognize where it's coming from, you can harmonize it, you can deal with it, you can balance it, right? I know that this is heavy, this is a lot of information, but gotta get it out. I gotta get it out. Sparkle, peace and greetings. Welcome, welcome. Society Eject says, yep, that makes sense. That's why animals are the earth element. Yes. I like it. I love it. I want some more of it. I keep forgetting the name of the guy who sings that song. If Sunshine Chick was here, she could remind me. I'll have to ask her when she comes back. Okay, so again, this doctrine states that all effects are pre-existent in the cause, and the effect is the manifest cause. Tim McGraw, thank you. Tim McGraw. So that's why I went through that chart that I just said, right? What we're experiencing in our reality with our senses is the effect of something that exists in a prototype stage. That's why it's important to recognize the 5 elements and what they mean and how everything in your life is related to them. Okay, so this doctrine states that all effects are pre-existent in the cause, and the effect is the manifest cause. So the effect is what's manifested. But the cause, because like we're talking about cause and effect, the cause is already pre-existent. It's already pre-existent in the effect, and vice versa. It's all one. There's a stage where cause and effect are resolved into one seed point. That's what I was trying to describe the past 2 days. When you are able to expand your awareness to a certain point, you're going to come into contact with a space of experience where cause and effect are bundled up together. It sounds weird, sounds bizarre, sounds crazy, but hey, I didn't make it up. Satkarya Veda, or the doctrine of pre-existent effect in the cause, is a unique contribution of Samkhya. This is where it comes from. It's a unique contribution of Samkhya to metaphysics and physics. So this is why time and space is an illusion, because in time and space, we have to experience cause and effect 1 second at a time. But if you continue to extend inward, you're going to find that cause and effect and that time is bundled up into one thing, one potentiality. Those are the higher realms. That's why time doesn't exist in the higher realms, because it's all wrapped up into one. Now you're just dealing with seeds of potentiality. The Akasha element is symbolized as an egg shape. I should probably carry around that egg of Akasha that my cousin bought me for all these book readings. But anyways, this doctrine states that all effects are pre-existent in the cause, and the effect is the manifest cause. This establishes that nothing new is ever produced. What's the Bible quote? Nothing new under the sun. There's nothing new under the sun. Nobody can create anything new. It's just not going to happen. This realm of expression, this physical plane, it is incapable of having something new. This establishes that nothing new is ever produced, as something cannot come out of nothing. This means that the creation never began, and will never end, Let me read that again. This means that the creation never began and will never end. Although there will be differences in the degrees of manifestation. This ain't for everybody, but somebody will get it. That's why I keep trying to say all of matter, all of creation is actually one thing. It's one thing, and check this out. It never began and it will never end. It sounds outlandish. It sounds crazy. But it has to be experienced to be understood. We can only talk about it until you experience it. Oh my. Oh my. Sparkle says, I love you. So glad I found this channel. Aw. I'm glad you found this channel too. Higate says, writing that assignment in 2019 with you. I did the assignment and now I see it. Which assignment was it? Alora says, outside the constraints of time and space, sucker. Yep. Beyond the circles of time. Society Eject says, creation never began and will never end. God is everything. Right. Al-Dicky says, the egg shape is the black egg-shaped rock that's supposed to be from heaven, and it's kissed and rubbed when you go on Hajj. Look, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. And it's in several Eastern traditions. One of my favorite tales is the tale of the Monkey King, who was born from an egg on a mountaintop. This also symbolizes the third eye, by the way. The third eye. Goodness gracious. Straight Panther says, that's hard to imagine in my head, not beginning or ending. They're going to break it down a whole lot better in this book, but a good way to understand it is that reality is existing within 3 stages. The first stage is nothing but pure potentiality, pure consciousness. The second stage is that unmanifest version of Prakriti, the prototype realm. So it never started, and because it never started, it cannot end. That's where all the gunas are balanced and all the elements are balanced and everything is in complete and total harmony. There's no movement whatsoever. It just exists as it is. Then there's a third dimension where existence is in motion, and it is evolving and it is unfolding and it is becoming and things are changing and we're experiencing time. But that's not the true reality. That's only that's an angle of the unmanifest. So creation never actually began, therefore it cannot actually end. Moby says, we have the desire to live forever, so it makes sense we are eternal, no beginning and no end. Exactly, because let me ask you this, Mo. Do you remember waking up this morning? Like, I remember eventually like turning around and moving those unicorn stuffed animals out the way and then getting out the bed and, starting my day. I remember that. But do you remember actually waking up? Or do you gradually slide into it? And likewise, do you remember going to sleep? Do you remember laying down and, getting comfortable, whatever? But do you actually remember falling asleep? You just kind of ease into it and ease back out. The same thing is happening with life. I don't remember being born, coming out the womb. I don't remember. I mean, hell, even if you remember that far back, it didn't start there because you were inside the womb, chilling, sucking up all those good nutrients. There's no beginning or end to life. Now, there's awareness, right? We have awareness of the right now. I don't know when this thing started, and I don't think it will end. Okay, Hecate says, Professor Bard's shadow work. Yeah, okay. So yeah, you see, it makes sense now. Not only do I like it, but I also love it. And I want some more of it. All right, let's keep going. So, I'm going to read this again. This doctrine states that all effects are pre-existent in the cause, and the effect is the manifest cause. This establishes that nothing new is ever produced, as something cannot come out of nothing. This means that the creation never began and will never end, although there will be differences in the degrees of manifestation. Another word for manifestation is emanation. It emanates, right? Emanates. And that's what I saw when I reached a very, very high level of meditation without any mushrooms or anything like that. The highest level of meditation that I reached without any mushrooms or any kind of anything was just seeing this cloud of color just unfolding out of itself. Have you guys ever seen an image or a video of the four-dimensional tesseract or four-dimensional cube, where it's like a cube, but it keeps unfolding out of itself? Have you ever seen that? Nothing new is actually being created. It's just changing its degree of manifestation, right? He says there will be differences in the degrees of manifestation. So life never began, creation never began, and it cannot end because of that. But it's continually unfolding and shifting and changing. I mentioned that the seed plants in the ground and becomes a tree and makes another seed and plants, and there's no beginning to that process. It's just emanation. It's just manifestation. This is how life is. It's just a continuous unfolding and trading of data, shifting and moving and sifting of data. And at any given time, we're aware of one degree or another. Nuru says, the only thing with no prior cause is Brahman, Atman, the soul, or true self, Purusha. All these have no beginning and are uncreated and are deathless, eternal, and the cause of all phenomena and existence. I invoke thee, the bornless one. It also establishes that the stage of pralaya, or dissolution, is the state of potentiality. In this state, all the tattvas rest in the womb of Prakriti until the beginning of the next cycle of creation. This is the logical basis for the concept of eternity, which is difficult to understand, as we are faced with a constantly changing material existence. Satkarya Veda, which is the doctrine of pre-existent effect in the cause, Satkarya Veda also establishes the law of conservation of energy, which is a basic principle upheld by modern physics. Energy is converted from one form to another, but there is never any change in the primal energy. Understand that. Understand that. So that's what the law of conservation of energy tells us, right? That's what modern physics tells us. Energy is converted. They say energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be changed into another state. That's what scientists know and understand. So this isn't a stretch of the mind. Even people that don't even study anything spiritual, they only study the material plane, even they can perceive that energy is converted from one form to another, but there's never any change in the primal energy. It's like an equation. Let's say if you got 10 of something, those 10 may shift and change and trade, go here, there, more over here, less over there, but it's always going to equal up to 10. So you can change its form and distribute it in different ways, but the total will always be the same amount. So I keep saying Prakriti is one thing. We might be able to change the shape of it or change the state, but it's always the same amount. This is what Sakarya Veda's ancient law of pre-existent effect and the cause tells us. This book also explains how understanding Karyakarana Veda, Satkar Veda, and the principles of the laws of causation can be used in modern daily life. For example, how one can get out of depression. So for those of you asking, well, how can I use this practically, Trav? This page was highly highlightable, as you can see by all the yellow. Let's find out. Samkhya also gives us a very exhaustive description of the three gunas, the basic material of creation. It states that all objects of the world are characterized by three properties: pleasure, which is called priti, pain, which is called apriti, and indifference, udasin. Pleasure, pain, and indifference. All objects of the world are categorized by pleasure, pain, or indifference. The same object can create these reactions in different people. That's the same object can create different reactions in the same people. Right? So if I were to sit up here and show you a picture of Adolf Hitler with his hand raised up, some people that's going to cause pleasure. Some people that's going to cause pain. And some people don't give a damn either way. Same object. This means that the basic matter of creation will also contain these three elements. Thus, the deduction is that Prakriti consists of the three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas, which have these three properties respectively: pleasure, pain, and indifference. All the objects of creation have these gunas in different proportions. All the objects of creation have these three gunas in different proportions. When you see this unicorn, do you feel pleasure, pain, or indifference? Am I right? Uppity unicorn, peace and greetings. Don't worry about what these other people are doing. You stay focused on your grind. Don't get distracted. Don't get put off track. Maintain your frame. Don't let me have to tell you again. Samkhya further gives a clear picture of the human mind with its three components of buddhi, which is intelligence, ahamkara, which is ego sense, and manas, the deliberating faculty at the level of indriyas or sensory organs. That's something that we went over. Remember, manas is the deliberating faculty, or rather the collection of the sense organs. So that's the five senses of actions and the five senses of knowledge. That's manas. Ahamkara, ego sense, we know that as the defining factor that categorizes everything, identifies everything, and on a lower level attaches to everything. I am this, I am that, I'm not that, I'm not this, I love this, I hate this, I don't care about that. And then buddhi is the faculty of intelligence, higher intelligence. The three together, buddhi, ahamkara, and manas, are called the antakarana, or the inner instrument. Buddhi, or the higher mind, has the qualities of virtuous conduct based on full understanding, dharma, wisdom or jnana, non-attachment, vairagya, prosperity, aishwarya, and ascertainment, adhyavasaya. So let me read that again. Buddhi, or the higher mind, has the qualities of virtuous conduct based on full understanding, wisdom, non-attachment, prosperity, and ascertainment. Manas, or the lower mind, receives the sensory inputs. It deliberates over them and presents the information to the higher mind. So this is the mind of the body. Manas is the mind of the body. The higher mind is buddhi, which is the medium for Purusha, the self. So check this out. The higher mind, I consider buddhi the higher self. Why? Because the higher self, buddhi, That is the medium for Purusha, right? That's the medium for Purusha. Oh yeah, that's a good point, Hecate. We were talking about how energy is converted from one form to another, but there's never any change in the primal energy. Hecate also says, including the weight of the electrons. Yeah, so even this is described in science, but just in different terms, different ways. I love it. Pablo X69, thank you. Pablo X69 says, ascertainment, a noun, the act of fixing or determining or reducing to certainty. Yes, thank you for that. So that's a faculty of buddhi. So again, that higher self is a medium for Purusha. And what does the higher mind do? It has the qualities of virtuous conduct based on full understanding. That's the key part, full understanding. So buddhi deals with wisdom, non-attachment, prosperity, and ascertainment. Then there's manas. Manas is the lower mind. It receives the sensory inputs, it deliberates over them, and presents the information to the higher mind, which is actually the medium for Purusha, which is the true self. So right there, we even have the concept of how the body and the mind is nothing but an instrument for the soul. The body and the mind is not who and what you are at all. It's just an instrument for the soul. In fact, the sensory organs of knowledge are called buddhi indriyas. It is also mentioned that the sensory organs are not only external, but they also have corresponding internal centers. These three components of mind, which are buddhi, ahamkara, and manas, these three components of mind form the instrument of cognition, of which are three forms. There's three forms of cognition, right? Check it out. Direct perception, inference, and testimony. These are the three forms of cognition: direct perception, inference, and testimony. However, the real cognizer is Purusha, the consciousness. Buddhi, also known as Mahat, is only the reflected light of Purusha. So understand, even your higher self is only a reflection of the soul, not the actual soul. I made a diagram and posted it before, illustrating how on the tree of life we can see that Malkuth would be Manas, the collection of the five senses of action and the five senses of knowledge, right? What we just talked about, Manas. This would be Chitta, which is the storehouse of memory, which is where our experiences are pulled from. Ego, Ahamkara, would relate to Had and Netzach, right? The study and the art, the science and art. And finally, Buddhi will be related to Tifereth, the higher self, right? So this is all the aspect of the microcosm. This right here is the same thing that we see, and it really lines up. If you analyze this thing properly, all that's just talking about the microcosm right there at the bottom. Malkuth, Yesod, Had Netzach, Tifereth, right? And look at Doth way up here. But the whole reason I pointed that out is because Tifereth is only a reflection of Kether. It's a reflection of Kether's light. So even as Nuru said that if you were to go to that higher self level, you're going to see somewhat of a library of experiences that you can pull from. Now that's up here. That's also reflected here. That's also reflected in Chitta, Yasad, the etheric plane. This relates to a library of memory experience, the universal collective unconscious. That's a reflection of what's happening with the collection of souls, or I should say soul experience, which is only a reflection of soul itself. So Manas, Chitta, Ahamkara, Buddhi, which is a reflection of Kether. Now here's why I said that. Buddhi, also known as Mahat, is only the reflected light of Purusha. It does not have the nature of self-awareness. Right? Oh boy. Thus, thousands of years ago, Samkhya established the ground for a total psychology, emphasizing that the real self is beyond the mind. How could I have not highlighted that? Thousands of years ago, Samkhya established the ground for a total psychology, emphasizing that the real self is beyond the mind. This is good. This is really good. Samkhya says that the mind is a creation of Prakriti, which is also the source of all manifest creation. The mind is a creation of Prakriti. This implies everything in the universe is connected because all are evolutes of the same source. All come from the same source. Man is also a product of Prakriti and must follow the laws of Mother Nature. Thus, we find that the basis for modern ecology was also established by Samkhya. Samkhya repeatedly emphasizes that the visible world is only a small portion of the totality of existence. Samkhya repeatedly emphasizes that the visible world is only a small portion of the totality of existence, and there is an infinite, unmanifest dimension. Logical arguments are given to validate the existence of the subtle dimension of existence. The tanmatras are the subtle elements, which cannot be seen, but their existence can be inferred. Just because we cannot see it does not mean that the world is not round. Our field of perception is limited, but we can expand our awareness through spiritual means to experience the 25 elements that comprise the entire existence. Tatwas can help you do that. It is not necessary to be bound by the material world perceived by the senses. It isn't necessary. You don't have to suffer. You don't have to suffer. You don't have to suffer. Our field of perception is limited, but we can expand our awareness through spiritual means to experience the 25 elements that comprise the entire existence. Samkhya and Yoga. Samkhya and Yoga are two parts of one system. Kapila's Samkhya is the metaphysics, and Patanjali's Yoga is the method or sadhana. Wait, are we talking about a map and a vehicle? Uh-oh. Do you remember in the beginning when I said that Kabbalah was the map and that Yoga was the vehicle? I said that? For the past couple of months. Samkhya and Yoga are two parts of one system. Kapila's Samkhya is the metaphysics, and Patanjali's Yoga is the method, or the sadhana. Yoga follows the same philosophical system as Samkhya, viz. Purusha, also called Drashta, the seer. Remember in Gyan Yoga, he talked about becoming the Drashta. Remember he said that? The first step was to still the body. The second step was to still the mind. The third step was to become the Drashta. Purusha, also called the Drashta, the seer. Prakriti, also called Drishya, the seen. And the Gunas. I'm telling you, this is why we read these books in order. Because step by step, it helps to bring you to a natural conclusion, which will be understood as we go through this book. Yoga has developed the Samkhya system into the stepwise gradation of Ashtanga Yoga, or the Eightfold Path. The direct realization of Samkhya is replaced by an 8-step climb into the higher dimensions of Samadhi, and ultimately Kaivalya, which is aloneness or liberation. Samkhya does not mention Samadhi, but only the last stage of Kaivalya. However, one does in fact come across the different evolutes of the Samkhya system, like the Tattvas, Tanmatras, Ahamkara, and Mahat, in the stages of Samadhi. The cause of all suffering is the superimposition of Purusha, the pure consciousness, on Prakriti, the constantly changing creative matrix. The cause of all suffering is the superimposition of Purusha, the pure consciousness, on Prakriti, the constantly changing creative matrix. What do you think would happen if you took something that is used to being permanent and forced it onto something that is always changing? That is why we suffer, because we want things to remain as they are, pleasurable, yet that's not the nature of this world. The nature of this nature world is to change. And we suffer and we get upset because we want things to stay the same, right? That's why they say attachment leads to suffering. It only makes sense. Absolute sense, honestly. Prakriti, the matrix. This superimposition is called samyoga, and this comes about because of ignorance, the ignorance of the true nature of reality, or avidya. So the whole reason that this is happening is because of ignorance, because we don't know any better, right? We don't know any better. We're looking at the world and expecting it to remain the same, and we get mad or sad because it changes. Hell, we even get happy when it changes, right? Say things are not pleasurable and suddenly they take a turn for the better. Then we get happy. But both of those are illusion. Because eventually that happiness is going to be challenged when things change again, as they inevitably will. Change is the one constant of Prakriti. The opposite is true for Purusha. Purusha does not change at all. Has never changed. There's no cause or effect in Purusha. Purusha just is. Prakriti is doing all the movement, all the wiggling and jiggling and gyrating. This ignorance is beginningless, but has an end in self-realization. It is emphasized repeatedly both in yoga and Samkhya that Prakriti has no effect for Siddha, as he or she is no longer subject to the play of the Gunas, having gone beyond them. Let me read that again. It is emphasized repeatedly both in yoga and Samkhya that Prakriti has no effect for a Siddha, as he or she is no longer subject to the play of the Gunas, having gone beyond them. You want to talk about liberation, enlightenment? Well, at the same time, you're talking about transcending the effect of Prakriti. Samkhya briefly mentions the ethics of contentment, tushti, charity, or daya, and non-attachment, vairagya. So Samkhya briefly mentions the ethics of contentment, charity, and non-attachment as means on the path. Yoga evolves this idea of ethical life as the first step on the path and gives us the 5 yamas and 5 niyamas, the codes of conduct. The basic purpose of the ethical life is to take the aspirant to the dimension of sattva, away from the pull of rajas and tamas, prevalent in normal life. If you recall, those are the 3 gunas. From Samkhya, we know that the sattvic dimension is responsible for jnana, or wisdom, and mahat, or buddhi, reflects Purusha. So let's cover these again. The basic purpose of the ethical life is to take the aspirant to the dimension of sattva, which is away from rajas and tamas in everyday normal life. From Samkhya, we know that the sattvic dimension is responsible for wisdom, for jnana, and that mahat or buddhi reflects Purusha, the consciousness, because of the predominance of sattva. So look, when there is a predominance of sattva, Purusha is naturally going to shine brighter in buddhi. But the only way for that to happen is to move towards sattva and away from rajas and tamas, away from like and dislike, away from being anxious and agitated and always moving and doing and running around and trying to make this, da 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 da, getting away from that, but also getting away from laziness and stagnation and ignorance and foolishness, but coming to a place of knowledge and wisdom, study and practice, and applying what has been studied and practiced to your everyday life. In doing so, you're going to allow for your higher self to reflect in your physical life more and more and more, because sattva is becoming predominant. Does that make sense? In fact, the whole of yogic life is a progression from the tamasic and rajasic aspects to the sattvic, and then transcending the gunas. Samkhya says direct perception, inference, and testimony are the three means of right knowledge, pramana. Yoga accepts these three, but adds 4 other types of knowledge, and you'll find this in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. They say that yoga adds 4 other types of knowledge. There's false knowledge, which is viparyaya. We read about this before. Imaginary knowledge, which is vikalpa. Past knowledge, which is smriti. And no knowledge, which is nidra. These 5 cover the entire field of knowledge of the ordinary mind, right? So the entire field of knowledge for the ordinary mind is false knowledge, imaginary knowledge, past knowledge, and no knowledge. And then of course there's right knowledge. That's the 5th one. That's covered in like the early couple of chapters in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. So those 5 cover the entire field of knowledge of the ordinary mind. They are called fluctuations of consciousness, or vrittis, right? We learned about the vrittis, remember? So these are the vrittis: right knowledge, false knowledge, imaginary knowledge, past knowledge, and no knowledge. And they're caused by the beginningless ignorance. The purpose of yoga is to stop these fluctuations and thus reveal the light of Purusha, who is seated inside as the unfluctuating drashta, or seer. That's the purpose of yoga. That's the purpose of this vehicle, to stop the fluctuations of the mind, to stop playing around with false knowledge, stop playing around with imaginary knowledge. Like I said, you don't have to make nothing up. It's already here for you. The right knowledge is already here for you. You don't have to go for false knowledge. You can stop with the imagined knowledge. You don't have to rely on past knowledge. And you definitely don't want to settle for no knowledge. That's an easy way to get lumps on the head. The fluctuations of consciousness, in other words, called vrittis. The purpose of yoga is to stop these fluctuations, right? The second verse in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. The whole purpose of yoga is the management of these fluctuations, managing them. The purpose of yoga is to stop these fluctuations and thus reveal the light of Purusha, who is seated inside as the unfluctuating drashta, or the seer. Yoga gives the practical means for elevating our level of consciousness, and Samkhya tells us what to expect as we travel on our inward journey by the light of sattva. I'm telling you, the Samkhya or the Kabbalah, that's the map. Yoga is the vehicle. That's what I've been saying. Yoga gives the practical means for elevating our level of consciousness, the vehicle. And Samkhya tells us what to expect as we travel on our inward journey. As we travel on our inward journey by the light of sattva through the subtle world of the Tanmatras. For an aspirant on the path of yoga, the evolutionary system of Samkhya gives an explanation for some of the techniques of self-realization. For instance, it is mentioned in Bhakti Yoga that bhava and rasa are the qualities developed in the path of devotion, the Bhakti Marga, These qualities are concomitant with the awakening of sattva, but we find it difficult to identify with them as we rarely experience sattva. Similarly, Samkhya can throw light on the guru-disciple relationship. The guru removes the ignorance of the disciple. What is the nature of this ignorance? This becomes clear through Samkhya. The level of ignorance is the last level of evolution, consisting of the gross elements and the 11 indriyas, the plane of senses and sensory objects. The guru brings the light of sattva to the disciple and awakens his or her buddhi, or discriminative power. Thus, at every point of spiritual evolution, the knowledge of Samkhya, metaphysics, will broaden the understanding and provide a clear direction for the aspirant. Does your guru bring light and sattva to the disciple? Does your guru help to obliterate ignorance? If not, that's not a guru. Excellent. So, we are now traveling to chapter 1. Now we can get to chapter 1. That's funny. But that was good. Good information. So chapter 1, dualism or Dvaita Veda. All right. We're about to dive in. We're going to take a quick break, maybe like 2 minutes. I'll be right back. Good stuff. Oakley dokley. Okay, good. I remember now. See, I forgot the name of that oil. It's actually castor oil, black castor oil. Yeah. Super good for the skin. All right, so here we go. I tell you, man, every time I say I'll be back in 2 minutes to use the restroom, 5 people leave each and every time. But that's all right. They're lost. Hecate says, I thought that was chapter 1. Society Eject says, LOL, no, that was just the beginning. We just getting started. Nuru says the goal is balancing, not eliminating, of the gunas. Non-anthropologically, tamas in Sanskrit has positive connotations as darkness and stillness. Gautama, the Buddha, has tamas in his meritorious title. That's a good point. And also to remember about Shiva. Shiva is the tamasic representation of the Trinity, whereas Vishnu is the sattvic and Brahma is the rajasic. All right, going down to Funky Town. Chapter 1, Dualism or Dvaita Veda. Samkhya is a darshana which believes in ultimate duality. Dualistic schools, including Samkhya, maintain that creation, manifestation, and absorption cannot take place without a combination of two ultimate entities. Just as a sound is created when we clap two hands together, creation takes place when two forces come together. That's important to understand, because I'm just going to say it. One question that's going to come up is how and why? How and why is Purusha wrapped up in Prakriti? But just kind of suspend that and follow along, and eventually the answer will be made clear. Just as a sound is created when we clap two hands together, creation takes place when two forces come together. In Samkhya, these forces or principles are known as Purusha and Prakriti. There are also many darshanas, schools or views and theories. Because remember, darshan means a way of seeing. So there's also many different darshanas, schools, views, and theories that are monistic in nature and say that Brahman, the supreme self or God, is the one ultimate and only reality. The monistic Advaita Darshana says this universe manifests from that one reality. And when the cycle of creation is complete, a cycle of absorption begins, during which everything again merges back into the one supreme self, the one supreme consciousness. The one manifests itself as many, and at the end, the many again merge into the one. Right? The word Purusha has been defined as consciousness which sees and knows. The consciousness which has knowledge but does not have the capacity to act. Understand this. Understand this. Please understand this concept about Purusha, about the soul, right? The word Purusha has been defined as consciousness which sees and knows. So Purusha, it sees and it knows. The consciousness which has knowledge, but get this, it does not have the capacity to act. The soul doesn't do anything. The higher consciousness doesn't do anything. There's nothing to do. It just is. It sees and it knows. The witness, right? You are that. So if that's the case, if consciousness doesn't do anything, that means that everything that is doing something is not consciousness, and it is not the soul. Guess what it is? Oh, that's good. Society Ejects. He says, I realized by me studying this information and going back to the Bible is a form of shadow work for me dealing with the childhood memories and getting better understanding. In Sanskrit, the definition of Purusha is Purishate iti Purusaha. The word Puri means citadel, i.e. the body, Sharira, and Sheti means that which is dormant, latent, or inactive. So Purusha is that which is dormant or inactive in the manifest dimension. Purusha is that which is dormant or inactive in the manifest dimension. The word Prakriti is derived from pra, a prefix denoting intensity of action, plus kriti, meaning to perform, to do, to act. Now we've seen this word pra before in this title here, the passive pravritti, right? Intense vrittis, going into the vrittis, whereas nivritti is getting out of and moving away from. So prakriti means intensity of action, to perform, to do, to act. So if Purusha is that which is dormant and inactive, Prakriti is the opposite, that which is intensely active, performing. You see the binary concept, the dualism here, the duality here. Prakriti denotes the primordial energy, the force of action of creation. Ali Hemet, peace, peace. Prakriti denotes the primordial energy, the force of action or creation. Here we have Samkhya's two definitions of the two ultimate realities, right? There's two ultimate realities, and we just named them, and he's going to describe them again. The first one is Purusha, indicating consciousness, meaning the knower, the seer, the inactive witness, also known as the drashta, right? So the only way to really come into an awareness of this is through meditation. Why? Because you're becoming inactive, you're becoming the witness. So here are the two ultimate realities. Purusha, indicating consciousness, meaning the knower, the seer, the active witness, also known as the drashta. And Prakriti, representing the force of creation, differentiation, performance, and participation. So clearly you can see here the difference. You can see the drastic difference between the two. This is why it is said that we live in a binary universe, in a world of duality. This represents the masculine and the feminine. It has nothing to do with a human body, but it has everything to do with a mode of existence. On one end, we have consciousness that is inactive and the pure witness and the pure mind. The other is the force of creation, nature itself, everything that is moving, active, and changing. The soul does not move, doesn't act, it doesn't change, doesn't do anything but witness. So everything that acts, moves, and changes is not the soul, it's a part of nature. That also means that it's not what you actually are. You can identify with it all you want, but that would be a lie. Seshvara Veda and Nirishvara Veda. Samkhya is known as Dvaita Veda, or dualistic philosophy, because it gives equal weight to both concepts, Purusha and Prakriti, equal weight. However, there's another consideration. One school says, is there not a third force that brings the hands together in order to create the sound? Because the hands are a part of a bigger organism, which is known as the body and mind, the Sthula and Sukshma Sharira. And its instigation, the hands actually come together, they clap and make a sound. Another school of thought says that although the body-mind is a bigger organism, only the hands create the sound. We may will or desire a clapping sound, but in the absence of hands, clapping cannot take place and there will be no sound. So we've got two schools of thought here. One believes that the two hands of Purusha and Prakriti belong to a bigger thing. And the other school says, whether that's true or not, only the hands are important because it is with the two hands that sound is made. So in Samkhya, there are two schools of thought, Nirishvara Veda and Seshvara Veda. The word Veda means discussion or thought. The word Seshvara is derived from two roots, sa meaning with, and Ishvara meaning God. This form of Samkhya recognizes that the hands are extensions of a greater organism. And only when that wills it to do, the hands come together and makes a sound. In other words, Seshvara Veda says that Purusha and Prakriti are extensions of Ishvara. And when Ishvara wills it, these two forces come together and creation takes place. Seshvara Veda means the thoughts on Samkhya which accept God, the Supreme Self, as the original source. Nuru says, toxic tamasic act is sloth, laziness, purposelessness. So that's toxic tamasic, sloth, laziness, purposelessness. Stillness in dhyana and samadhi with the purpose of inner self-revelation is holy, sacred tamasic stillness, leading back home to subjectivity, Purusha. Yeah, that's a good point. So we can't just look at the tamasic guna as something that is evil and bad, because like everything, it's relative. It depends on what we're talking about. So in this case, the tamasic expression can be a negative thing if it is leading you to be lazy and you're not really doing much with your life. But then again, that same tamasic expression can be perfect and lead towards sattva when it is utilized in stillness of the body and stillness of the mind. Interesting. Okay, so we're talking about these two schools of thought. And the first school that we mentioned is Seshvara Veda, right? And that means to with God. With God. And it says that Purusha and Prakriti are extensions of Ishvara, which means God. And when Ishvara wills it, these two forces come together and creation takes place. So the first school of Seshvara Veda is talking about how there is actually an intelligence behind Purusha and Prakriti causing the two of them to interact. Seshvara Veda means the thoughts on Samkhya which accept God, the Supreme Self, as the original source. Now the second main school of thought in Samkhya is Nirishvara Veda. The prefix nir means without. So Nirishvara Veda means discussions on Samkhya without reference to God or Ishvara, or with denial of the Supreme Self. The premise of this branch of Samkhya is not to deny the existence of God, but it does emphasize that although God may exist, Purusha and Prakriti are the important principles. In their absence, manifestation cannot happen, just as clapping cannot take place in the absence of hands, even though the body may desire it. This theory is known as Nirishvara Veda. That's a good point. So Seshvara Veda, there's two different schools of Samkhya. The first school believes that there is a God that causes Purusha and Prakriti to enter. The other school of thought, which is Nirishvara Veda, is atheist in saying that there is not a God behind Purusha and Prakriti causing them to act. And even if there was, a person cannot clap if he doesn't have hands. That's a good point. So even if there was a God behind Purusha and Prakriti, it doesn't serve as more important to understand than Purusha and Prakriti themselves. The Samkhya that is explained in the Bhagavad Gita belongs to Seshvara Veda. Krishna himself states, "I am the cause and the effect. Everything comes from me and merges back into me. But while things are being created, each has their function to perform. Purusha and Prakriti are subsidiary to me, and each has a function to perform." However, Kapila Muni, the sage who first formulated the Samkhya philosophy, propounds Nirishvara Veda. Just as the credit goes to sage Patanjali for codifying the system of yoga and the Yoga Sutras, so the credit goes to Kapila for writing down the sutras which describe the Nirishvara Veda philosophy of Samkhya. His Samkhya Sutras became the basis for the understanding, development, and expansion of the Samkhya philosophy. Interesting. Fundamental texts of Samkhya. According to tradition, Sage Kapila wrote two different treatises, Samkhya Pravachana Sutra and Tattva Samasa Pravachana Sutra, neither of which exist now. In other words, somebody's keeping those things under lock and key. Maybe so the Vatican can't get them. But they say that those two different treatises don't exist now. The Samkhya Pravachana Sutra, which the first treatise in which Kapila expounded the basic concepts of the Samkhya system. In the Tattva Samasa Pravachana Sutra, he expanded on the theories concerning the tattvas, or elements, and explained creation as a result of combinations and permutations of the elements. Possibly because these concepts were too complex for his time, people gave up trying to understand them after 2 generations. Damn, son. Where'd you find this? Can you imagine coming up with something that is too complex for your current people? Matter of fact, it's too complex for 2 whole generations. They know that it's fire, but they can't take the heat. They can't break it down. A 3rd generation disciple named Ishvara Krishna wrote the Samkhya Karika, which describes the entire philosophy of Samkhya as taught by Kapila, and has now become the basis of the Samkhya tradition, which we'll get into at the end of this book. So basically, this foundation of Samkhya was actually founded upon 2 previous books that were literally too advanced for the human beings on the planet at the time. So advanced that for 2 whole generations, people gave up on trying to understand it. It took a 3rd generation later for somebody to actually break the information down and write on it. And that's what we have. So we don't even have access to the original fire. We only have a 3rd generation translation. I could only imagine what was talked about. I can only imagine what he received. Because listen, this isn't something that some dude just sat down and made up. Like, I gotta emphasize this. This is somebody who dedicated their lives to understanding reality and literally cleansed and purified themselves, meditated, went within deep to understand the nature of reality and realized it. Made it to that point and realized it. And it was so profound, so complex, that 2 whole generations of people couldn't even touch it. They gave up. It took a 3rd generation student to even attempt to break it down, and that's what we have at the end of this book. Maybe some of us will have to purify ourselves and see if we can meditate to that level, and maybe we can try to come into contact with it. Nuru says, we're rarely told this, but many of the Vedic writers were battling each other for scholastic dominance with the Brahmin priestly class. Hence, a Krishna Brahmin may claim superiority to Purusha. Alligator the Greater, peace. Alligator the Greater says, greetings, Trav. Just like this information is too advanced for the masses. Right. I'm going to have to meditate on all these Vedic words once we finish. Yes, sir. So there we go. Like, even just like this information here is way too advanced for the common folks. I mean, look at how many subscribers I have versus how many people come to these live stream readings, right? It's the same thing. Everybody wants to understand this stuff. Everybody wants to know, like, the deep secrets, whatever, but only a very small fraction of people can even have the mind to comprehend what's happening here. Nehru says you will find ego even in the Vedas, hence much complexity and apparent conflict in the subtlest concepts. Sheesh. Naturally Natured says to Nuru, thank you for your insights and knowledge, always amazing. Love the insight on toxic tamasic. I've been feeling all the gunas have their place and space of use. Absolutely. Different commentaries have been written explaining its 72 slokas. Oh, there's 72 verses. I forgot about that. Gaudapada, the grand guru of Adi Shankaracharya. Hey, who's Adi Shankaracharya? There he is. The dude who wrote these books, Shankaracharya. But it says here, Gaudapada, the grand guru of Adi Shankaracharya. So in other words, Swami Sivananda would be the grand guru of Niranjanananda. So Gaudapada, the grand guru of Adi Shankaracharya, wrote a very famous commentary known today as the Gaudapada Karika, and therefore Advaita Vedanta refers to and disputes with Samkhya. So even they were having versus battles back in the day. Teehee. Many Buddhist thoughts also reflect Samkhya ideology, because Buddha, before he became realized, studied Samkhya. Did you know that? I didn't know that before I read this page. Buddha, before he became realized, studied Samkhya with Rishi Alar Kalam, and therefore Samkhya became a basis for Buddhist philosophy. Samkhya is also the basis for Mahavira's philosophy of Jainism, for the philosophy of Sri Krishna as taught in the Bhagavad Gita, and for the philosophy of yoga codified in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. This stuff goes way back in time. Me and Mariah go back like babies and pacifiers. Only the old heads know about that song. Philosophy of knowledge and numbers. So Society Eject says, do you see the fine print on page 11? See appendix for original Sanskrit transliteration and a modern translation of the Samkhya Karika. Yeah. Yeah, and what was that in reference to? Yeah, Samkhya as taught by Kapila has now become the basis of the Samkhya tradition. Yeah, and that text is that text is like he says at the end of this book, which we will get into. Straight Panther says giantism. No, Jainism, which is Jainism. Jain. Nicole Berkeley says genius of love. You got it. You got it. I'm in heaven. Ah, the simple days of MTV, BET, and music. Philosophy of knowledge and numbers. There are two schools of thought regarding the significance of the word Samkhya. One school defines Samkhya as coming from the roots Sam, meaning balanced, equal, harmonious, and Kya, meaning knowledge, understanding, wisdom. Here, Samkhya is defined as total, perfect knowledge of the entire process of manifestation, evolution, and absorption. Here, Samkhya is defined, what's the definition of Samkhya? As the total, perfect knowledge of the entire process of manifestation, evolution, and absorption. I'm telling you, if you understand this is like the source code of all this modern spirituality stuff. If you understand this, you don't have to get confused and go back and forth with people's opinions online. Did you know that some people, when they say they research, the extent of their research is little short clips on Instagram and YouTube? Bobby Hemmett used to drop hours and hours long videos. You know, a lot of people who claim to be students of Bobby Hemmett, they might have watched an hour in total of 60-second clips. Some people, when they say they're doing research, they're looking at little quick short clips. No, that's not total knowledge. That's just a piece of the pie. Here, Samkhya is defined as total, perfect knowledge of the entire process of manifestation, evolution, and absorption. If you understand this information, you won't be confused about what other people are talking about, because you're going to see what's actually going on. Because this isn't just describing a reality or a universe. This is describing the function of this place that we all live in. Like, it applies to everyone and everything. It doesn't just apply to Indian people. It doesn't just apply to people who study yoga. This applies to everybody. And just like what Society Eject says in the chat, like, you could take this information and go back to what you came up in. You can go back to Christianity. You can go back to Islam, right? You can go back to Dr. Malachi York, or whatever you know, whatever you already know. You can take this information and go back and understand it at a deep level. Society Eject says, LOL, yep. They don't watch the 6 to 8 hour videos anymore. They gave up trying to understand. Some things never change. That's the real meaning of this ain't for everybody. Even the people who claim to be about it. But, you know, that's none of my business, and I don't really care, because I already know what time it is. I'm getting my lesson. That's what my dad used to say. You go to school, you get your lesson. Stop fooling around with these knuckleheads. You go and get your lesson. So I offer the same advice to you. Stop fooling around with these knuckleheads. Get your lesson. Go get your lesson. need some help, I'm flowing straight from the survival scrolls. What up, Zay Zoomin? Peace. I'm doing my research. 5 minutes of 1 minute Bobby Hemmett clips. Oh my gosh. Get your lesson. Yeah, the shorts are good because it gives you like a quick bite of information, but that cannot be your only research. That's not research. You got to dig deep, dive in, and contemplate. That's where confusion comes from. When you just get a little snippet and run off and convince yourself that you got it, that's where the confusion comes from. This shit is over. We the gods. You got 72 motherfuckers in your head. Everything he said was right, correct, and true. But I'm not saying that because I'm a Bobby cult member. No, but because I did my own research. And everything that he said lines up with what I found independently. And towards the end of his mission, he ended up in the Vedic texts. People don't understand that. So continuing the legacy of Bobby Hemmett is not talking about spirits and Oshun and you know, beating up Western civilization, the white man. Continuation of Bobby Hemmett would be continuing on this path that we are right now. Because that's where he was before he stopped. And that's when he started saying this shit is over, because he started to see what we're talking about right here. The only reason I even heard of a Rig Veda is from his videos. But let's continue, because this is not about that. Alligator the Greater says, then you have to research the research. Right. You don't just stop at the surface level. You got to dig deep if you want it. But, you know, some people don't want it. I digress. Here, Samkhya is defined as total, perfect knowledge of the entire process of manifestation, evolution, and absorption. The other school asserts that Samkhya is derived from the Sanskrit word for relating to numbers, enumeration, or calculation. The spelling is the same, but the accent becomes different. The philosophy is pronounced Samkhya with a long sa, Samkhya. The word relating to numbers only has a short sa, Samkhya. In the later interpretation, the philosophy is called Samkhya because its theory of manifestation recognizes 25 different stages of evolution. The description of these 25 Tatwas, or elements, form the basis of the theory of manifestation in Samkhya and related philosophies. Hello, puppy. Where did you come from? Puppy. What a small dog you are. How'd you get to be that small? All right. So, yeah, in the latter interpretation, the philosophy is called Samkhya because its theory of manifestation recognizes 25 different stages of evolution. The description of these 25 tattvas, or elements, forms the basis of the theory of manifestation in Samkhya and related philosophies. We can say the Samkhya philosophy represents both knowledge and numbers. However, Samkhya also defines what it means to be scientific. Hekate. Samkhya uses the term anvisiki to mean enumeration of the contents of a particular subject matter by means of systematic reasoning. Later, the term Samkhya was used to mean a methodology of reasoning that results in spiritual knowledge, vidya, jnana, or viveka, leading to liberation from samsara, the manifest world, which is subject to the three forms of suffering. In the Samkhya Karika of Ishvara Krishna, it states, I'm not even going to butcher that. Dukkha Traya Bhigatat Jishnan. Yeah. When one is afflicted by the three kinds of suffering, which are internal suffering, external suffering, or suffering due to nature. Well, let me start over. When one is afflicted by the three kinds of suffering, which are internal suffering, external suffering, which is due to nature, or divine and celestial suffering, there arises a desire to know the means of terminating them. If it be said that this inquiry is superfluous, since ordinary remedies exist, such as medicines, etc., it is not so, because these remedies are neither permanent nor complete. So what he's saying here is about how there are three kinds of suffering that we all undergo. And when you have truly had enough, you're gonna seek and search for any means to put an end to that suffering. That's what any human being would do. And there's three kinds of suffering. Internal suffering, which is going on in your subjective reality, in your mind, right? There's external suffering, which is due to your environment, due to nature. And then there's divine or celestial suffering, which can be karmic, which can be related to your, which can be described as what's happening with your astrological sign. Basically, it's karma. So these three kind of sufferings can drive you to the point where you're like, man, I'm not dealing with this anymore. I got to find an answer today. When you reach that level, right, he says there arises a desire to know the means of terminating them, right? Have you ever been pushed to that level where the suffering is so bad that your mission now is to solve this problem by any means necessary? It takes that kind of mind to dig into this science. Internal, external, and divine. When those three types of suffering pushes you to the limit, that's when you're ready for this information. If it be said that this inquiry is superfluous, since ordinary remedies exist, it is not so, because these remedies are neither permanent or complete. When you got a problem that medicine can't solve, that books can't solve, like none of the regular basic means can solve, that's when people turn to the truth. See, we don't want to explore the truth until we're pushed to the brink. It's funny how that works. But hey, that's how I started to have success with the Goetia, because I had no other solution, right? I had faith that this would work, so I put everything I had into it and made it work. It's not that the Goetia is better than tarot or whatever. It's about the user. It's about what you do and how seriously you take it. Society Eject says, yep, that was a beautiful moment for me. Mo B says, yes, had hit my rock bottom. Society says, yes. Alligator Degrader says, that's why I'm studying this info. That's what I mean. When you reach that level, that's when you start taking this seriously. Most people just playing around with it. Just doing it because it's the popular thing to do. And that's okay, because at least subconsciously they're getting the data. And it's through people like that spread the information to others who may actually need it. But for the deep divers like us, we're not doing this because it's cool. We're doing this because it's the only thing to do. It's the only thing that can be done, really. Theory of causation. The basic philosophy of Samkhya is its theory of causation, which is based on the theories of Karya-Karanaveda or Satkarya-Veda. The theory of cause and effect is known as Karya-Karanaveda. The word Karya means effect, and Karana, cause. We've seen Karana in the word Antakarana. Satkarya-Veda is the theory of the inherence of an effect in its cause prior to its manifestation. We read about that a few pages ago, right? So Satkarya-Veda is that theory of the effect inside of the cause already. The tree is in the seed already. But the theory of cause and effect is Karya Karana Veda. So there's one theory of cause and effect. There's another theory of the effect being present in the cause before it even manifested. The root sat, meaning existence. Samkhya's theory of causation basically states that the effect is already inherent in its cause, and it is up to something else to bring out that effect, right? Follow this now, follow this. Because we're talking about life and everything within nature. The effect is already present in the cause. So nothing random is ever going to happen to you in life. Anything that can or will ever happen to you is already present within you in its potential state. Radiohead song says, no alarms and no surprises. For example, clay is the material cause, and earthen pot is an effect. But there are many possibilities inherent in the clay, and each possibility represents a possible effect or manifestation. The earthen pot is an effect, a possibility that already existed in the cause before manifestation. So in other words, if you have that lump of clay, within that clay is the effect already. Whether you're going to make a pot out of it, whether you're going to make a garden gnome and you're going to paint it funky colors, or whether you're going to make some kind of, earthen jewelry. All those potentialities exist within that clay. Likewise, everything that can and will ever happen to you already exists as a potential state within you. The same way that the tree exists within the seed. Now, we don't know exactly how many branches it's going to have. We don't know, if it might come out a little bit crippled or warped or bent or massive, you know what I'm saying? But the potential for all of those different states exist. We don't know if it's going to come out to be a pencil. We don't know if that tree is going to be chopped down to make books, but the inherent potential exists within that seed. Within that seed, we've got number 2 pencils, right? We've got books and papers. We got toothpicks. We have reeds for playing the clarinet. So the earthen pot is an effect, a possibility that already existed in the cause before manifestation. Understand that principle. Because that's how you're going to understand the unmanifest dimension. All right? Like what Straight Panther said, it was a little bit difficult to comprehend as far as not having a beginning but also never ending. It's because we're talking about a realm of potentiality. Good stuff. Nirishvara says same. Lucky for us, bottom and top are just a revision apart. Soul force is a loaded spring. Physicists call it ether. Vedas call it Brahman, Purusha, a still loaded spring of charge everywhere. Wherever elements exist, they contain the possibility of transformation. Whatever the cause, it contains the inherent effects. That is the basic theory of causation in Samkhya. The concept of Samyoga was added later. Samyoga means combination and permutation. A potter cannot make a pot from only one element, but has to mix elements, such as water, earth, and glazes. That is where Samyoga, the combination and permutation of the elements, comes into the picture. Each combination and permutation produces a different result, and in Samkhya, the concept of Samyoga is explained in detail in the theory of manifestation. Each combination and permutation produces a different result. So again, this is why we're talking about the 5 different elements, because inherent within each one of them are potentialities. But those potentialities are not expressed until they begin to come into contact with and mix with different elements at different degrees. So the more that you understand about the raw ingredients Now you can start to understand about what happens when they mix together. Not only does this highlighter have a bright yellow color, but it also has a specific scent. That's 2 senses, sight and smell. That deals with the fire element and the earth element. But it also makes a specific sound when I draw it across the paper. That deals with the air element. Those 3 things were involved with its creation. I could work with those 3 elements to get to the essence of this highlighter. Brief example of what I mean by the combination of these different elements to produce a result. Because this wasn't just made with the potential of the earth element. There had to be some type of fire element involved in its creation. Society Eject says, whatever element exists, they contain the possibility of transformation. Is this a formula for working with spirit? If you know, you know, that he who has an ear, hear what the Spirit is saying to the churches. Amen. Amen. Please be seated. Hallelujah. Amen. 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 Look, I'm gonna go to church one of these Sundays this year. I gotta get an update on some of these gospel songs. Each combination and permutation produces a different result, and in Samkhya, the concept of Samyoga is explained in detail in the theory of manifestation. But the main contribution of Samkhya to our understanding of causation is that the inherent effect is contained in the cause prior to the manifestation of that effect, and that the law of cause and effect governs the whole world. For example, a sweet taste exists in sugar. Sugar is the cause, the sweet taste is the effect, and they are linked. I was trying to describe that yesterday when I was talking about how you've got the tanmatras and the indriyas, and how everything that you're going to smell in your life is contained in a specific tanmatra, waiting for you to realize it. The same thing with every sweet thing that you're going to eat. It exists in a potential state, just waiting for you to taste it. It's not anything new or random or going to come out of somewhere else. No, like it's all contained in a library. And the further you zoom out, we're talking about awareness here, the further you zoom out of your experience, you can come into contact with this potential state. They call it the Akashic records because it exists in the Akash element. The Akash element is the prototype potential dimension that all the other elements come out of. So what I'm saying is, where we currently find ourselves is in a place going through every second of every day, one step at a time. But that's only because of the angle that we're at right now. There's a state that you can reach where time, beginning and end, is wrapped up in one. The same way that the sweet taste is contained within the sugar. This is what Samkhya has brought to the table, that concept. When you start contemplating on that alone, a lot of things that we call magical abilities start to become easily explained. Being able to affect someone at a distance, that's not so far-fetched when you realize that the experience that you're sharing has a common source. You feel me? Telepathy and psychic ability, that's not so far-fetched when you realize that the experience of telepathy between you and another person or you and multiple people has a common source. So we're on the last chapter now for this video. Chapter 2, the theory of causation. I hope that you guys are enjoying this read so far. I hope that it's been insightful for you. I hope you've got some things to chew on and think about. We're going to continue chapter 2. Let me know in the chat if you are still riding with me. Unless, of course, you're riding yourself, like driving in a car, then don't type. But if you're not driving, give me something in the chat. And also, if you didn't hit that like button, go ahead and hit that like button, because that's a good thing to do. Amen, amen, amen. Won't he do it? Or won't he do it? Yes, sir. God is good. All the time, and all the time, God is good. Cool beans. Hecate says, I am in. Society ejects. Give me a check. OB still here. Triple hearts. Alligator says, we riding. Al Dicky, yes, sir. All right, all right. Thank you all for being here. Theory of Causation, Chapter 2. Karika Veda is the theory of compatibility of cause and effect. Framestar Films, peace and greetings. It's probably like nighttime for you. Nicole Berkeley, still going. Awesome. Society Eject says, yo, I just realized on the side of the book there is 3 stripes and a red dot. Oh yeah, Easter eggs everywhere, man. And there's actually more secrets on this book, on these books. Nuru says, yes sir. Awesome. Yeah, on all the spines there are the 3 dots, 3 stripes in the dot. It looks pretty cool when you've got like a whole shelf or 2. I wonder what kind of yantra that is. I wonder what that has to do with anything. You said 3 stripes in a dot? You said on the spine of the book? Oh yeah. That should let you know these folks know what they're doing. Just because we're not aware of it doesn't mean that it ain't happening. It's no accident. I posted a picture on my Instagram with like a whole bookshelf full of Bihar School of Yoga books, and you just see the 3 stripes going all the way across. I love it. Stray Panther says, yes, Lord, Lord, but God. All right, calm down, Mr. Travis Mages. Karika Veda is the theory of compatibility of cause and effect. The first argument in Samkhya is that cause and effect go hand in hand. An effect is inherent in a cause, and the cause and effect have to be compatible. Each cause has an effect, which is compatible with its cause. When we talk of cause and effect, we are assuming compatibility between the two. If 2 things are incompatible, then one cannot be the effect and the other its cause. Rather, one must be an external and independent effect, wrongly superimposed on an unrelated cause. Every effect has a cause according to its quality, and the quality of the effect is determined by its cause, right? Please understand. It's got to line up. It's got to make sense. It isn't just because you try to force it, right? You ever listen to somebody like who doesn't study or doesn't read or doesn't meditate, but they like figured something out and they try to explain it to you, and the longer they talk, the more you realize that they're really just piecing things together and like trying to force things to fit. There's a logical fallacy, right? There's a lot of logical fallacies that people just assume. One of them is called correlation does not mean causation. In other words, just because 2 things seem similar, that doesn't mean that one caused the other. For example, if somebody eats ballpark franks and dies of food poisoning, so we got a death of food poisoning and somebody that ate some ballpark franks. That doesn't mean that ballpark franks cause death, right? There's more. The effect has to be related to a cause. Sure, they're correlated, right? But it's going to take some research and some digging to understand what actually happened. You can't just, oh, hot dogs are poisonous, never eat hot dogs. Likewise, every effect has a cause according to its quality, and the quality of the effect is determined by its cause. Our minds are kind of hardwired to just assume stuff, but please train yourself out of the habit of doing that, because that only breeds ignorance. And most people do it. Most people just assume stuff because their minds aren't strong enough to sit down and flesh it out. Don't be like that. Don't be so quick to jump to a conclusion. Take your time. There's no rush. Sometimes the answer doesn't come for a while. Sometimes the answer might take a day, or a week, or a month, or several years. Many men, many men. An effect, karya, pre-exists or resides in its cause in a potential state or condition prior to the operation of the cause, since something cannot arise from nothing. Effects require adequate material causes. Effects require adequate material causes. All effects cannot arise from all causes. All effects cannot arise from all causes. An efficient cause can only produce that for which it is efficient. An effect is of the same essence as its cause. An effect is of the same essence as its cause. Please keep that in mind, because it works both ways. It works from beginning to end and end to beginning. If you want, say for example, the dude who ate the hot dog and died, that's not necessarily connected. Because that doesn't mean if you eat hot dogs, you're going to die from the hot dog poisoning. There was another girl who messaged me about Kabbalah, and she said something about, I wouldn't study Kabbalah if I were you because Kabbalah makes you crazy. And I had more of a discussion with her, and it turns out that's her assumption that she believes because her father apparently studied Kabbalah and ended up leaving the family and doing this, that, and a third and starting a whole new family across the country. So she correlated and connected, okay, well, Kabbalah makes you do that. No, that's not related at all. That has everything to do with your father, with that person, with that individual and his personality and how he already was. You can't blame something. Anyways, that's due to a lack of thinking about the situation, basically. Don't do that. Analyze, analysis. That's how you get to the truth, not through assuming things. And by the way, when you see this right here, when it's talking about the when it shows the Sanskrit and then a translation of it, these are actually verses of the Samkhya Karika. This was verse 9. Like I said, we're gonna have the whole Samkhya Karika, all 72 verses at the end. But right now, as he's explaining what's happening, he's doing so based on specific verses, right? Society Eject says, no, he just built the Kabbalah on top of his foundation that he already had. Respectfully. Exactly. But, it all makes sense, because if you analyze the cause and effect of why she would come to that conclusion, she needs an answer. And it's too heavy for her to say, oh, my father, that was his personality, and that was what he chose to do on purpose. That's hard to accept, so it's easier to blame something else that's convenient. Assumption. Don't assume. My dad said, don't assume, because assuming makes an ass out of you and me. Don't do it. Yo, the sun don't shine forever, but as long as it's here, then we might as well shine together. Better now than never. Business before pleasure. P. Diddy and the fam, who you know do it better.
Yeah, right, no matter what, we airtight. So when you hear something, make sure you hear it right. Don't make an ass out of yourself by assuming.
Yeah, I used to love that album. Puff Daddy and the Family, No Way Out. Twilight Sun Shaman of Lilith, peace. Atropa, welcome, welcome. Good to have you here. Natural Nature says he needed some shooty. Yeah. Yeah. Shooty. Had to get me some shooty before this live stream. Uh-oh. Alligator the Greater says this is really blowing the top off the sixth hermetic principle of cause and effect. Yes, sir. Bingo. Yes, as we can. And guess what? Guess where them 7 hermetic principles came from, by the way? The 7 hermetic principles of the Kabbalion is absolutely so Samkhya. It is so Samkhya. We could probably go back and do a reading on the 7 hermetic principles, and it'll just be so blatantly obvious. The all, come on now. We talking about Purusha here. Stray Panther says assumptions become thought forms. Yes, they do. Especially because they're charged with belief and emotion. And that only reinforces their existence. Because they're charged with belief and emotion, now people are believing them even more. It's always some madness, man. Always some madness. My brother came up telling me, he's always telling me about these theories and stuff that people have on YouTube. Kevin Samuels didn't really die. Like, what do you mean? It's like, yeah, so basically an actor, and he was actually a woman, transgender, pretending to be a man, and he hated black women, so he decided to be a man to do the radio show or whatever, and now that they're finished and retired, he decided to go back to being a woman, and the only way to do that was to kill off the character. And I'm like, where does this stuff come from? What is it based on? Like, who's putting this together? And furthermore, how does this help you to have this information? But this isn't even a slight on my brother, because he didn't make it up. He got this off a YouTube video. So, and I'm sure that YouTube video has thousands of views and thousands of comments that are saying, yeah, I agree with that. He was a woman who hated women and pretended to be a woman, and now he retired and died. Like, that's why y'all can't understand the Vedic text, because you got all that kind of stuff bouncing around in your head. Let us have gratitude that is not the topic on our minds today. Stray Panther says, I hated that album. What? That was the best. I loved that album. Every track I damn near had memorized. I used to rap that album from the top of my lungs, man. Sparkle says, exactly. That's why society has us afraid of everything. Glad I woke up. Me too. Moby says, people are bored. Man. Society Eject says, whose man's is this? I'm telling you, man. And hey, no offense if you in the chat believe that. You know what I'm saying? But whether it's true or not, at the end of the day, how does that help you? How does it help you? IDKDKDF. Peace, peace, peace. So, Nimitta Karana and Shakti Karana. The question then arises, if an effect is contained in the cause, what brings forth the effect from the cause? There has to be a catalyst or an instrument. In Sanskrit, that instrumental cause is called Nimitta Karana. Its function is to bring forth the manifest effect from the cause, to give form or actuality to the possibility. Here, a third concept is introduced. First is the cause, second, the effect, and third, the means or process of manifesting the effect from the cause, which is known as Nimitta Karana. All right, so we've got cause and effect, but something has to bring the effect out of cause, and that third thing is called Nimitta Karana. Another argument is that the actualization of a specific effect requires a specific cause. Oh, yeah, that's right. So there's like 12 different causes in Samkhya, and I think that's what we're getting into now. Cool. Yeah, another argument is that the actualization of a specific effect requires a specific cause. For example, if you wish to produce yogurt, a specific item, you need to have milk. You cannot produce yogurt out of water. If you wish to have cotton clothes, you need cotton, not woolen cloth. For actualizing specific effects, you have to choose that specific cause, which inherently contains the specific potential to actualize that particular effect. This choosing and empowering is involved in the concept of Shakti Karana. Let's go down to see what the footnote says. It seems that the ultimate empowering Shakti is the attention of consciousness. Oh! Have you ever highlighted a footnote? Have you ever seen a footnote that was fire? I highlighted the whole footnote. Remember the split experiment that I keep bringing up? How they shot the light beams through the split? It was behaving as a wave until someone noticed it, till they observed it. Then it behaved as a particle, right? Because it can't be both. It is one or the other depending on the situation. Check this out. It seems that the ultimate empowering Shakti is the attention of consciousness. Soon as consciousness focuses on a potential cause, it becomes active. It becomes a process. And absolute consciousness is simultaneously aware of all causes and effects, rendering the whole of Mula Prakriti active. But once active, the causes develop according to their own laws. Human beings are very special causes, since they have reflective awareness of themselves. Y'all, that is major right there. That is major. Because here's the thing. If you want a specific effect or specific result in life, you need to be focusing on the cause of that. If you want to become a millionaire, you need to focus on the cause that causes one to become that. If you want to be healthy, you need to focus on the cause of health, not trying to run and get prescription drugs to fix a problem, but it has to be solved before it even arises. The father who left his family after studying Kabbalah, that's the cause is not Kabbalah. The cause is something else. The man who died from eating hot dogs, the hot dog was not the cause of his death. Something else was going on with his body. But even bigger than that, look what he says. It seems that the ultimate empowering Shakti, right, the ultimate power is the attention of consciousness. Soon as consciousness focuses on a potential cause, it becomes active. As soon as you focus, what you focus on expands. As soon as you focus on a potential cause, it becomes active. It becomes a process. Now get this, we talked about higher consciousness and ultimate consciousness, unconditioned consciousness, Shiva, Purusha, the Most High. Check this out. Absolute consciousness, or the Most High, is simultaneously aware of all causes and effects. So if that one lonely scientist looking at that light particle collapses it, looking at that light wave collapses it into a particle, if a human being can do that, right? Imagine infinite consciousness, which is aware of all causes and all effects. That's the whole reason we're here experiencing this thing. Again, back to the Kabbalah, right? We live in the all. We live and move and have our being in the all. The all is mind. The universe is mental, right? People get it wrong. They say the mind is all, the universe is mental. That's not the freaking quote. It's not the mind is all. The all is mind. The universe is mental. So if the all is mind, the all is aware of everything within that mind simultaneously, which is why we have manifestation. This is the most fire footnote I have ever seen in my life. Absolute consciousness is simultaneously aware of all causes and effects, rendering the whole of Mula Prakriti active. Because Purusha is aware of Prakriti, that is why she's in motion. That's why she's moving. As soon as he takes his attention off of her, she ceases to move. As soon as we stop observing the light particle, it becomes a wave. I wonder what's behind you right now. You can't see it. Is it even there? Or is it infinite darkness? And as soon as you turn around, it renders, like in Grand Theft Auto. As soon as you face a direction, the graphics suddenly render. Because that's what they said. When you're playing those massive games like that, it would cost way too much data and resources to render the entire map. The only thing that's rendered is what you're currently looking at. So if a computer has to do it like that, geez Louise. For actualizing specific effects, you have to choose that specific cause, which inherently contains the specific potential to actualize that particular effect. Man, look, we can close it up right here, right now, because that's the answer. What you focus on expands, and that's why. That tells you why. Like, I don't know. I hope y'all can see what I'm seeing on the same page. I hope that y'all are seeing what I'm seeing on the same page. It is not a mystery no more. Like, it is plain and simple. So, in the theory of causation, the first argument establishes that the effect is contained in the cause, because it wouldn't be able to happen that way if it wasn't. But this is a very general idea. The second argument maintains that there must be a catalyst or an instrument to bring out the effect from the cause. The third argument is that actualizing a specific effect requires a specific cause. It is the need for recognition of the cause and the relevant effects contained in the cause, which is indicated by the third argument. Another implication is that the effect is always contained in the cause, even in its unmanifest form. Because it is unmanifest does not mean that the effect cannot be produced. Sheesh. Atropa still here. Thank you. I hope this information is making its way to you. I really hope that this information is making its way to you. Because if you really apply it and understand what's being said here, this is life-changing. Because what are you paying attention to right now? Like, what are you paying attention to on your day-to-day life? What are the things that you're focused on? You ever met somebody who does nothing but complain all the time? And is it any wonder that they have an endless supply of things to complain about? It's because that's what they focus on. And because they focus their awareness on complaining, they manifest that for themselves continuously. Hell on earth. I'm not just talking about gratitude just because I want everybody to be sweet and have hugs. Man, when you focus on gratitude, you start to produce more things to be grateful for. Matter of fact, Prakriti starts to produce more things for you to be grateful for. Look what Alligator the Greater says. Awareness is indeed a superpower. It is. That's what this footnote says. It seems that the ultimate empowering Shakti, because the Shakti is the power of the god. Every god has a goddess. Every god has a Shakti, right? Every god has a Shakti. The ultimate empowering Shakti is the attention of consciousness. What are you paying attention to? Where's your focus? See, I pay attention to this stuff right here. And I easily see its effects on my life. Effortlessly. What do you pay attention to? Self-knowledge arising from Samkhya. We could overcome mental depression, despair, and pessimism by applying this concept to our problems in life. When we are disturbed and unsure about which course of action to follow, the dilemma can be resolved by understanding the causes and effects related to the situation. When we are disturbed and unsure about which course of action to follow, the dilemma can be resolved by understanding the causes and effects related to the situation. Understanding the causes and effects. Initially, the existence of the effect is not felt, because it exists in the cause in its unmanifest form. It is very difficult to realize that the cause is always there, the effect is always there, and that both can be recognized simultaneously. Often we cannot recognize the effect of a cause or the cause of an effect, and we get involved in one without understanding the other. Peace, ZJ. ZJ says, peace, everyone. I'm at work. I gotta catch up later. He also says, this part is fire. Yeah, man, it's hard to break away when it's getting good like this. Moby says, yes, my certain family members, and it shows in their life. I remember being at work and trying to have conversations with my coworkers, and all everybody wanted to do was complain every single day. How can you live like that? Society Eject says, page 16 is a true definition of you become what you believe. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Prakriti. Sparkle says, it's deep. I'm so aware of everything. I just turned down a gift that had words written on it that I didn't want in my space. Sorry. Hey, you got to do it like that sometimes. I don't blame you. Matter of fact, I congratulate and celebrate you because you had the wisdom to understand that. I do the same thing. I don't put words and images in my space that I do not want to have bouncing around in my subconscious mind. I'm a little bit smarter than that. Everything that my eyes lay upon, it has a specific meaning, and that meaning is to aid in my self-development and enlightenment. Nothing that works against that has a right to exist in my awareness. Absolutely not. Without a question. Uncontestable. No exceptions. So I'm right there with you, Sparkle. ZJ says, yes, lots of complainers. It's exactly as it says. They focus on the negative and it multiplies. Hey. So if you want to focus on the conspiracies of people dying, you know, all the stuff that's on right now, you can focus on that. You have a right to, but don't complain when life is not going the way that you want it to go, because you're choosing not to focus on progress. Society Eject says, you have to sit your ass down and be still, and the answers to your problems will come. It's up to you to apply it. Absolutely. Moby says, yep, want to remain victims. MC Maestro says, Guru. Peace, MC Maestro. Good morning. And what a great morning it is. I mean, don't get me wrong, I enjoy a good conspiracy theory, but I recognize it as entertainment, right? That's what it is, a theory, right? Now, if something is true, it's no longer a theory. But how do I know it's true unless it lines up with something that I can actually demonstrate for myself? My brother talking about Kevin Samuels was actually a female pretending to be a man, and the death was just part of a hoax so that he can move on from that role. I can't prove that. I don't even want to prove that. I don't care enough. So I leave it there. It's entertaining that people are talking about that, but it has nothing to do with anything I got going on. That ain't got a damn thing to do with Jesus. What you talking about ain't got a damn thing to do with Jesus. Self-knowledge arising from Samkhya. So we could overcome mental depression, despair, and pessimism by applying this concept to our problems in life. When we are disturbed and unsure about which course of action to follow, the dilemma can be resolved by understanding the causes and effects related to the situation. Understanding the causes and effects related to the situation. Initially, the existence of the effect is not felt because it exists in the cause in its unmanifest form. It is very difficult to realize that the cause is always there, the effect is always there, and that both can be recognized simultaneously. Right? I know it sounded weird when I said yesterday and earlier that you can expand your awareness to a realm that is beyond time and expression, where cause and effect exist at the same space. I know that sounds weird, but that's what he's talking about here. The cause is always present in the effect, and the effect is always present in the cause. That's really what the study of the Tatwas are about. And when you meditate and focus on the Tatwas, you can start to become led into that space of potentiality. That space of potentiality is like the seed realm, where cause and effect are bundled up together. Ooh, the male woman is here. I think I got a new book. Hot diggity dog. Good stuff. Stephen Jones asks, what is the name of the book you are reading? Well, I'll give you a hint. It's in the title. It's called Samkhya Darshan by Swami Niranjan Ananda Saraswati. Hecate says, I've been working on Earth Tattwa for a bit, growing slowly on those babies, getting interesting results. Awesome, awesome. Keep it up. Alligator the Greater says, open the book you just received in the mail. Well, I gotta stay focused on this right now. I shouldn't have left in the first place. I got excited though. I can tell when the male woman comes. She knows this house very well. Package after package, book after book. All right, back to this. Okay, so often we cannot recognize the effect of a cause or the cause of an effect, and we get involved in one without understanding the other. We need to make an effort to discover the effect in the cause and also the cause in the effect. For example, we may fall into depression because of something that happens during the day, such as an argument or fight. At night, we may think about it rationally and logically, and then go to sleep without realizing that what happened has affected some deeper part of our mind. The next morning, when we get up, we feel gloomy and depressed with no motivation to start the day. We know the external cause for the depression, but we do not know the internal part of the mind it has affected because we have only sorted it out logically. Logic is not enough. That's part of it, but that is not the totality of it. This means that an area of the mind has been affected, which we were unaware of. So it is necessary to find out what are the deeper causes and effects. Has the argument or fight affected my emotions? Has it given me a sense of isolation and loneliness? If so, then which feeling, belief, or emotion caused this to arise? We need to know whether the emotion that caused it was affection, love, desire, rejection, or aversion. There are different areas of mind where we are not logically aware of the subtle effects of an interaction. We also need to look past the effects in order to deal with their fundamental causes. I'll read that again. There are different areas of the mind where we are not logically aware of the subtle effects of an interaction. That means that there are interactions that take place, conversations and exchanges that take place in our life that have subtle effects on aspects of our mind that we're not aware of logically. You ever heard of body language? things like that. We also need to look past the effects in order to deal with their fundamental causes. See, most people fail because they only focus on effects and not causes, right? Sadi Eject says, yo, lol, page 17 about shadow work, right? So we got one page about you become what you believe, and the next page right here is about shadow work. Like, this book right here resolves everything else. But I truly don't believe that it would have been properly received if we didn't go through the other books first. Let's keep it going. When we understand the manifestation of these elements of Samkhya, we will start to wake up and achieve deeper and more extensive self-knowledge. Tai Lopez style. Knowledge. Good stuff. Potent cause and desired effect. We have introduced the concept that only through a potent and selective cause, Shakti Karana, can the desired effect be attained. Milk is the material cause of butter, yogurt, cheese, etc. But to obtain these specific effects of milk also requires the selection and activation of appropriate causes. Also, one cause can have many different effects. Wood, for example, can be converted into various different objects, but it will always remain wood. The different objects will conform to their common material cause. Whether you make a door, a table, a chair, the wood will always be recognized as wood, whereas milk is not recognized in butter, although butter is a product of milk. The causes that have a single effect are determined by their swabhava, their natural quality. Remember we talked about this in, I want to say Gyan Yoga? Or it might have been Karma and Karma Yoga. There's no glossary in the back of this one. Swabhava. Bring it back down tonight. Yeah, it's in one of these books that we already went through already. He talked about the quality, the character, the swab, right? He says that the causes that have a single effect are determined by their swabhava, or natural quality. So your swabhava is your character, your natural quality. You can take a tree and cut it and make a chair, a table, a number 2 pencil, but guess what? It's all wood. It's all wood. No matter what form you may shape it into, it is still wood. That's the swabhava, the quality, right? Now, the causes that have multiple effects are recognized by their quality of containing different possibilities. Each possibility in a cause is known as a Shakti Karana, a potent cause. Karma and Karma Yoga. Thank you, MC Maestro. So the Swabhava was in Karma and Karma Yoga. La 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 la. Bling bling. Every time I come around the city, bling bling. Yeah, that's right. He's talking about the operating system. When the light hit the ice, it twinkled and glistened. There we go. So yeah, he first mentioned it on page 5 in Karma and Karma Yoga, where he's talking about the software of karma. And he says that the operating system software of karma contains 4 different back-end softwares. The first back-end software is the basic instincts, which are craving, sleep, insecurity and fears, gross sensuality and sexuality. The second back-end software of karma is swabhava, the nature, right? The character that our mind expresses in life. Swabhava, the natural quality. You have a natural quality just like wood has a natural quality. You can tell what it is, no matter what shape it's in, you know it's wood. Likewise, no matter what color clothes you wear, it's still you. The third back-end software is the samskaras, the impressions that we carry forward from the past. And the fourth back-end software is performance of the senses. These are the back-end softwares, and we come equipped with them into this life. They're given by Prakriti, by the Shakti, the force responsible for creation, manifestation, and expression of the cosmic will. It all ties together. So in a way, this is really one big book. Nehru says Samkhya was a radical shift away from blaming karma or God and codified the need to move one's attention inward and see that it is our own choices, not predetermination, which liberates or entraps us. Yes. Don't focus on the obstacles and the distractions, but focus on what you can do from this point forward. Atropa says, wow, that's the first time I've seen a footnote highlighted. That's a person who really digs deep, right? Framestar Film says, cause and effect down from K to M, like a pendulum in a downwards spiral motion. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. Where are we going to be in a year from now, 2 years from now? Am I going to be in a mansion or am I going to be in the Himalayas? Sitting naked in the snow, meditating. Will I make it in this lifetime? Only God knows. I'm just living life, facing highs and lows. Will I ever make it? Oh, damn, I fucked it up. Anyways, let's continue. The Swabhava, the natural quality. The causes that have multiple effects are recognized by their quality of containing different possibilities. Each possibility in a cause is known as a Shakti Karana, a potent cause. You cannot make butter out of wood because the Shakti Karana for butter is absent in wood. Milk is a potent cause in making butter, not wood. By studying the Swabhava and the quality or guna of the possible causes, the potent cause is recognized. Once a potent cause is recognized, you can attain the desired effect by knowing the potentialities of that cause. I like that. MC Maestro says, in a mansion, projecting yourself into the Himalayas. Society Eject says both. Yeah, the third option. I like it.
I like it. I love it. I want some more of it.
Tim McGraw. I won't forget next time. Once a potent cause is recognized, you can attain the desired effect by knowing the potentialities of that cause. Look, if there's something that you're striving for in life, it's good to focus on the end result, but don't neglect the cause, right? Are you doing today what's going to lead you to that desired result? Are you doing everything you can today to get you where you want to be? Or are you just sitting there with your fingers crossed doing the same old thing, hoping that something is going to magically fall out of the sky? Track down and locate the end result that you want and trace it backward to the cause. Every effect has a cause. If you want to bulk up and build muscle and get ripped, or whatever y'all say, there's some causes to that, right? You have to actually lift some weights. You gotta take a big scoop of that protein, vegan or non-vegan, right? And put it in your muscle milk and your water and your milk and shake it up and drink it every day, right? You gotta have a consistent application of specific causes to pull out a specific result. It doesn't just happen magically. I mean, to be honest, the magic is recognizing the path to get there and walking that path, right? Everything is possible if you can locate the cause. Everything is possible if you can locate the cause. If your magic ain't working, if you're not having the manifestation that you desire, have you located the cause of the effect that you're aiming towards? But you guys didn't come here for magical advice. You came here for the Samkhya Darshan. So let's continue. Shakti Karana is both singular and multiple. It represents the quality and sub-qualities which are able to manifest. For example, what is the Shakti Karana or potency contained in chalk or crayon? It cannot be eaten. For us, says who? I've eaten plenty of crayons in my day. It cannot be eaten. For us, its primary or intended effect is writing. With milk, however, if you desire butter, then butter becomes the intended effect. If you desire yogurt, yogurt becomes the intended effect, and the milk is transformed into yogurt. So when these two, the potent cause and the desired effect, are taken together, then we need the nimitta karana, the efficient cause, the medium to manifest or actualize the potential. So somebody might ask, well, how can I use this practically in my everyday life? He's literally telling you how to live in such a way where you can create the life that you want. If you just read between the lines and take this seriously, right? It starts with identifying where you want to go and then identifying what's the cause of that thing. And then he said here, thirdly, identifying the medium to make such a thing happen. We can also explain nimitta karana by using the example of a seed. I like this one. I like this one a lot. Although a seed contains Shakti karana, the possibility of a tree, it will not grow into a tree if you just hold it in your hand, right? So again, if I want to live in a mansion and project myself in the Himalayas, I don't just sit here and say, oh, I'm going to the Himalayas while I'm in my mansion. No. There's more that has to be done. There's a medium that has to be done. The most important thing is to know the destination and the cause. Now, the medium, that may vary. But check this out. It will not grow into a tree if you just hold it in your hand. This goes for your affirmations too. Saying them is great, but act on them as well. There has to be a nimitta karana, an efficient cause or medium by which the seed can grow. One aspect of the medium is the soil, but just putting the seed in the soil is still not enough. The seed will not sprout if you do not provide water. It will lie dormant in dry soil without germinating. A seed represents karana, the cause, for karya, the effect. But the effect cannot manifest without the efficient cause, nimitta karana, to actualize its potential. Now, low-key, he was telling you about the elements. Your akasha, right? Your akasha, your desire, has to be planted into earth. Then it has to be watered. Then it has to receive fire, which is the sunlight. And through the air, it will begin to sprout. Elemental magic, secretly explained by the good Swami. Awareness is the key. In your life, you must consider which seed is the potent cause for your desired effect. All right? A seed could be of any tree, apple, mango, or teak. You must recognize the specific potency, the guna, or quality, which is contained in that seed. The difference in the type of karya, or effect, is the result of this quality. A seed is a seed, but if you want a mango tree, you must recognize a mango seed. And then it becomes the Shakti Karana for you. If you do not recognize the seed as a mango seed, but believe that it is an apple or a teak seed, then you have not discovered the natural potency of the seed. Check it out. The moment you correctly identify the mango seed, you also recognize the potency which is in that seed. Awareness is key. Not simply looking at a thing, but understanding what you're looking at. Am I right? Straight Panther 79 says, magic advice is always welcome. Nuru says, I came for the magic, I stayed for the swababa. Nice. Framestar Film says, earth your intention. Yes. Beautiful. When you put a seed in the ground, desiring a specific effect, the nimitta karana becomes the process of nurturing and assisting the growth of the seed by providing the right amount of water, fertilizer, etc. The nimitta karana is the medium through which you help to bring forth the potency contained in a cause. Then, utpadam, or actualization, of the potential in the seed takes place. Here, the link between karana, or cause, and the shakti karana, or potent cause, involves recognition or awareness. Your awareness, perception, and knowledge must become involved for recognition of the shakti karana to take place. What did he say? He said your awareness, perception, and knowledge must become involved for recognition of the Shakti Karana to take place. If you really knew how much fire was being produced from these words. I tell you what. Meditating on the Mahavakyas, I found something interesting. The first is Aham Brahmasmi, which is I am the higher consciousness. The second one says Tatvamasi, you are that. The third one says Ayam Atma Brahma, my soul is the higher consciousness. The fourth one is Prajnanam Brahman. Brahman is knowledge and realization. And I realized something here after yesterday's live stream. Brahman, right? We know of Brahman as the union of Purusha and Prakriti. Well, check this out. Prakriti is nothing but data. Prakriti, matter, the material plane, nature is nothing but data, right? What is data but knowledge? Data. And what is the realization of that data? That is awareness, that is consciousness. Purusha, Brahman, is Prakriti and Purusha. Brahman is knowledge and realization. So he said, look, this is why, look. Vedantic foundation of Gyan Yoga. Vedanta, right? The Vedantic aspect, as we said a few pages ago, Vedanta believes that there is Brahma, which is the union of Purusha and Prakriti. So that fourth one, Prajnanam Brahman, is saying that Brahman is the culmination of Prakriti and Purusha. Pretty interesting, huh? Make sure that you memorize these 4 Mahavakyas and meditate on them constantly. That's going to be one of the best things you can do, right? If you're like, oh, what mantra? What should I do, the Shiva mantra or the Kali mantra? I don't want to, do this right here. Meditate on these 4 Mahavakyas. You cannot go wrong. The grand guru of Swami Niranjanananda says, meditate on these things constantly. Ooh, I have that book. Neat. But yeah, if you've got the book Gyan Yoga, go to page 10 and please memorize these for your own good. I'm telling you. But let's wrap this up. Black woman, peace. Aloha. Your awareness, perception, and knowledge must become involved for recognition of the Shakti Karana to take place. The cause is not only an object, it also contains an extra potency. For the karya, or effect, to become the desired effect, this potency must be recognized through knowledge and awareness. Then it gives birth to the special effect that you desire. The manifestation is known as utpadam, actualization of the potential contained in the cause. The Shakti Karana only becomes active when you foresee the possibility or the potentiality through your knowledge and understanding in this process. Well, the Shakti Karana only becomes active when you foresee the possibility or the potentiality through your knowledge and understanding. In this process, knowledge, awareness, or recognition is called Jnana Shakti. Desire is called Ichcha Shakti, and actualization is called Kriya Shakti. Where have we seen those three before? I'm going to pull it out. And I'm pretty sure it's on page 43. Let's go to page 43. Well, that was close. It's on page 42 and 45, of course. We got the Kriya, Jnana, and Ichcha. She says the Shiva Tattva is composed of 5 pure elements which are related to absolute consciousness. The first 2 of the Shiva Tattvas consist of Shiva as the pure consciousness, or Chit, in union with Shakti as the pure energy, Chit Shakti. Inherent in Chit Shakti are 3 creative aspects known as Ichcha, which is the energy of will, Kriya, which is the energy of action, and Jnana, energy of knowledge, right? So check this out. These are the 5 of the Shiva Tattva. Instead of Akasha, air, fire, water, and earth, we've got Shiva, which is pure consciousness, Shakti, which is pure energy, Ichcha, which is the willing force, Kriya, which is the activating force, Jnana, which is the knowing force. To will, to dare, to know, to be silent. I'm sure you've heard that before, right? To will, to know, to dare, to be silent. Aleister Crowley. Anyways, we've got Ichcha Shakti, Kriya Shakti, and Jnana Shakti. And here's what he's talking about here. In this process, knowledge, awareness, or recognition is called Jnana Shakti, desire is called Ichcha Shakti, and actualization is called Kriya Shakti. Look at how it all connects. Now finally, we have the 5 proclamations. These ideas about causation are summarized in the Sanskrit shlokas given by Ishvara Krishna in his text Samkhya Karika. We can call them the 5 proclamations of the theory of causation. The 5 proclamations of the theory of causation. Number 1. If the actualization of the effect does not happen, then the cause cannot be the true source of the effect. Asadakaranat. So the first one is if the actualization of the effect does not happen, then the cause cannot be the true source of the effect. Right? So every effect must display its cause, and every cause must display its effect. Otherwise, that is not the cause of the effect. Number 2, before manifestation, the effect is contained in the cause and it is part of the cause. In the material cause, we find the matter that is invariably contained in the effect. The word upadana means matter or substance, and grahnat means contained. Upadana grahanat. Contained substance. Number 3, a specific effect requires a specific cause. Sarvasambhava bhavat. Literally, abhavat means due to the absence of. Sarvasambhavat means everything does not come out of everything. Number 4, a desired effect can be attained only from a potent cause. Shaktasya Shakya Karanat. This implies that the cause determines both the quality and quantity of an effect. And number 5, cause and effect are inseparable. They are 2 stages of one substance. Cause and effect are inseparable. They are 2 stages of one substance. A substance in its unmanifest form is the cause, and in its manifest form is the effect. Karana Bhavat. Very key. Cause and effect are actually the same thing, just at different stages. So in its unmanifest form, it is cause. In its manifest form, it is effect. Mind and body, consciousness and matter. Consciousness is the cause, well, Purusha does not have a cause. But within Prakriti, the unmanifest Prakriti is the cause. The manifest Prakriti is the effect. Because remember, there's 3 levels. There's absolute consciousness, which is the top level. The second level is unmanifest Prakriti, and the third level is manifest Prakriti. That unmanifest Prakriti is the cause of all causes. Manifest Prakriti is everything that we're experiencing in this world today. In the existence of cause exists the effect, and they both have, so to speak, equal weight. The weight of the wood used to make a table is the same as the weight of the table that contains the wood. The weight of the earth used to make a pot is the same as the weight of the earthen pot. Both are equally potent and equally weighted. Okay, so great job, great work in laying down the ground rules and the context for the science that we are currently digging into to explore. The science of the cause of reality, the cause of nature, and what the hell's going on. We're getting into that now. So I hope that this was informative to you. I hope that you were able to put a few things in order in your mind regarding the information. Because I know it's a lot, and I know it's foreign. But that doesn't mean impossible. That doesn't mean that you're not supposed to understand it. That just means it's going to take a little bit to settle in. You feel me? Tisha333. Peace. Good morning. Good afternoon. So yes, y'all. I hope that this has been a very informative read for you. Woo! Ric Flair. I hope that this has been something that gave you a lot of insight. This is some good information. And it's going to get even deeper than this, for sure. For sure. There's a whole lot more that we're going to dive into, but this is just the beginning. So I hope you got this book. Feel free to look into it even more to make sure that you understand the concepts and everything like that. And I think that's it. I'm about to do some more work on this book and maybe eat something. I'm not sure what. I still got some smoothie, so that's definitely going down. Framestar Film says the metadata of nature, right? Straight Panther says, made my workday easier. Awesome. I remember back in the day listening to like Brother Panic and Bobby Hemmett while I was working. That definitely made the day go by easier. Society Eject says, yes, this book is definitely that loud pack. Loud pack. Yeah. Nicole Berkeley says, thank you for riding with me and giving me the name of that Mariah Carey song that I actually forgot, which is why I didn't say it, but you reminded me. And thank you, Sunshine Chick, for reminding me once again. Tim McGraw, won't forget it. All right, so have a great day. It's a beautiful day. You deserve it. You don't have to suffer. You really don't. Hikate says the book of radiation, right? Quentin Major says, appreciate you, Travis. I appreciate you. Thank you for being here. I love it. Nuru says, power in your fast, brother. Thank you. Awesome. Sunshine Chick says, don't go. I'm off work now. Well, I mean, at least there was something good to listen to. Something great to listen to. All right, so we will continue. I almost wanted to do Prakriti, but it might be good to kind of just stop here, let the information digest, and we'll get back on it for sure, very soon. All right, so like I said, I'm gonna get back to work on my book. I got to do some social media stuff, make some memes. Hopefully I got my my Aleister Crowley book that I ordered. Enjoy the rest of your day. Depending on what happens, we may or may not be back here tonight. If not, we'll definitely do this again tomorrow. Alright, well, yeah, that's everything. Be good to yourselves. This is TK Trav, aka Travis Magus, here with LVX777. I love you guys. Peace.